end. The end. Took me a minute to load in. The end is in sight. We're so close. Maybe we won't reach the end tonight. I think we will reach the end the next time. We're so close. Let me load this game. Resume. And a pause. But yes, welcome. Nova Pixel on it. Aren't you glad that there's no puzzles in this game? No difficult puzzles. So you can take credit for my success yet again. Kidding. Reviewing. Here we go. My controller. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So, I think perhaps. Oh, we have to go here anyway. Perhaps a newspaper has spawned.
Hey, how
Maybe.
you doing?
Time for some shopping.
So, what'll it be? Come again.
As the newspaper will sum up everything that has happened so far.
Please take a look.
What do we need? So, what'll it be?
Yes. I missed issue 8. Okay, here's 9
It's
for the
decided.
newspaper, which I'll read in a second. This is what I mean. There is no way you can get every book without a guide. I scanned the fucking map because it tells you where everything is, but I'm pretty sure this is the book that's you have to backtrack a lot for. How did I miss that? Oh well.
Thank you.
I'll go over that in a second. I should be approaching the part of the game where I can get endgame weapons. I don't know if it's now or if it's shortly. Oh, you have to go in here anyway.
Oh, welcome.
Okay, so
I can't decide.
So, what'll it be?
gauntlets, no. Let me
Thanks.
check the Orbital store because the Orbital store I think has the upgrades. Upgraded stuff that I can look at. And it'll tell me if I need to buy
Hey,
the previous tier of weapon.
I can't decide.
Let's see.
what'll it be?
Cestus Plus. Okay, so I don't think I'm quite at the part where I can get the end-game weapons. Ultimate weapons, as they're called. Staff, no. Battle Staff Plus. I'm gonna hold on to my U materials then, in that case.
See you later.
Might be a few more cutscenes I can get the ultimate weapons. Oh well. So a lot happened in the last stream. We had a lot of exposition with the Queen and Colonel Richard himself. Not necessarily in regards to Colonel Richard's motives, but definitely his objective. So let's go over the newspaper. Issue 9, special feature, Tournament Champions Crowned. Surprise team claims victory. Finally, the last member of the Special Ops team slowly sank to his knees. As the referee raised his hand towards the sky, the arena erupted into thunderous applause. This year's tournament was full of surprises from the start, beginning with a switch to team-based combat. And the finals brought yet another surprise. Victory ultimately went to a mixed team led by Zin, the skilled martial artist in the Republic, who was on our side. Who would have predicted such a remarkable outcome? This unconventional lineup, composed of a martial artist, 2 junior bracers, and a traveling musician, defied predictions, and bested an elite special ops team to reclaim the championship. Truly, a royal tournament for the ages. The champions showcased remarkable strength that transcended the sum of their individual abilities. Their secret: exceptional teamwork, the power of friendship, that allowed their diverse skills to complement one another perfectly. His thrilling triumph would not have been achievable without the switch to team-based combat, proving the tournament's innovative format a rewarding success. We commend all participants for their efforts. Any team invited to World Banquets. This is what happened last time. The victorious team has been invited to attend this year's illustrious World Banquet hosted by Duke Doonan. The prize includes a whopping 100,000 Mira, alongside the honor of mingling with prominent figures across the kingdom, including the mayors of each city. Society. Her Majesty, the Queen, recovering. It has been confirmed that Her Majesty the Queen, who had been battling a recent illness, is now showing signs of recovery and is expected to resume her official duties soon. The birthday festival, previously shrouded in uncertainty, will proceed as planned, bringing welcome relief in these challenging times. Intelligence Division deploys special ops to World Capital. In response to challenges tracking down former Royal Guard officers, the Intelligence Division has decided to deploy its special ops units to the Royal Capital. This decisive action aims to fortify internal defense measures with expectations that security for the Royal Castle will soon be in full interest of these elite units, because of the fact that the Royal Guard has been tried for treason, and its leader, Julius Schwartz, is currently posing as a nun in the church. Ancient Dragons. Intriguing reports are emerging from Ravenue Village. There's a Ravenue Village in the northern Bose region, where villagers claim to witness massive flying shadows in the sky. Speculation is rife that these might be traces of ancient dragons, a majestic species thought to have vanished after the Great Collapse. According to researchers, the Bose region was the last known habitat for these legendary beings, prompting excitement and interest around the possibility that remnants of this ancient lineage may still exist today. Enthusiasm for these creatures has resurged recently, capturing the imagination of many within the kingdom. Now, we're supposed to go around and talk to all these NPCs. So it's going to be a lot of talking. There's Karna. We had to let the other bracers know about what we found about Colonel Richard and his goals. Welcome, Zarksik. Oh, Karna.
Well, well, look who it is. And with Zen, no less. What's going on?
Things have taken a bit of a troublesome turn.
What's up? Whatever it is, it sounds pretty serious.
They explain the situation in the Queen's request. So the Queen made a formal request to the Bracer Guild to rescue her granddaughter, the Princess Claudia, in the clutches of the Intelligence Division. This supersedes the supersedes the Bracer Guild's rule against interfering with official national affairs.
Huh? And you aren't kidding, are you? I knew something was up when I heard the checkpoints and landing ports closed. Alright, I understand. What do you need me to do?
We're gathering everyone for a strategy meeting. Please head to the guild.
Got it. I'll go on ahead.
That's one bracer. Karna, Annalise, Kurt, and Grant. I think his name is Grant.
I can't decide.
So, what'll it be?
Just checking their equipment real fast again.
Thanks.
Okay. Next is the inn. We'll do the church last.
Welcome.
Here's Grant. Found you, Grant.
Well, well, well. If it isn't the Royal Champions. I heard you stayed the night at the castle after the banquet, but here you are. How was the food? Pretty good, right? Tell me all about it.
It was so good, but we got something more important to discuss.
Oh, what's that?
They explained the situation in the Queen's request.
Whoa. Are you guys serious?
Every word, unfortunately. I stake my very name on it.
The immovable's in. Well, if it caused the immovable to move, there can be no room for doubt. All right, I'll lend a hand.
Thanks, Grant. We'll hold a strategy meeting first, so please head to the guild. Everyone should be waiting there.
Got it. I'll see you there.
We also learned how much of a badass Estelle and Joshua's father is Cassius. Being a grand strategist, the most important member of the Royal Army when it came to completing the... Ooh! Salamandius. He's leveled up to a tier 1 subscription. Nice and Aizu. Thank you, Salamandius. You show so much support to me, man. I really appreciate it. Analyst.
Oh, hi, rookies. Hi, Zin. Already back from the castle, huh?
Yeah, we're back, but... Analyst, can we talk in private?
Oh, sounds like you got some juicy gossip to share.
Well... I wouldn't exactly call it juicy, more like surprising.
Ooh. Either way, it sounds fun. Instead of chatting here, why don't we head to the rest area outside? What?
Getting some money in, so I figured I'd show some... Oh, man. You didn't have to do that, but I do appreciate it, so thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, and now I'm old. Oh, man. I'm flat. I'm flat as a board. Get olded. I have indeed gotten olded. 1989 strikes again. This is more like 1984. 85? 86? Does it matter? It's the 80s, man. It's supposed to be like that. Just to be clear, this isn't a joke. It's going to be a big job and we could really use your help.
Sorry. I think I'm still trying to process everything. I don't really get it, but everyone's gathering at the guild, right?
The good news is, you will now be able to dodge ads. pesky things. Alan should be able to explain all the details when you get there.
Gotcha. I'll head over right now.
Okay, so that's Analyst, Karna, and Grant. So we have 1, 2, 3 more, and nothing out here. Making sure. Okay. What am I doing? There's fast travel in this game. There we go. All right, who's in here?
I hope you enjoy your stay.
Someone's room. Burst in. Oh, it's Kurt. Wait, Kurt was looking kind of sick at the tournament. Claimed as the after effects of an accident from 3 months prior, but
I'm so close to remembering what happened back there.
yeah, he also claims that he didn't have any memory of the job that he faced his accident.
But it's like there's a thick fog blocking it.
Kurt. Good, we found you.
Oh, Estelle and Joshua. And Zin's here too? What brings you all here?
Remember how we went to the castle for the banquet yesterday? While we were there, these 2 rookies received an unbelievable request.
An unbelievable request?
An unbelievable request. It might be best if we explain everything to you, Kurt. They explain the situation and the Queen's request. As a reminder, it is to save the Princess Claudia from the clutches of the Intelligence Division.
Is that really true?
Yep, every word. Which is why we need your help, Kurt.
No, not that part. I mean, the Queen's request certainly is surprising, but the black ornament the Colonel has, it really exists?
Kurt, you're looking kind of funny again, brother. What's the matter? Kurt? Hey, are you okay? You look a little pale. Oh no. He's freaking out. He's gonna blow. Nah, he's fine. What? This is...
Stand back a bit.
Huh? Sin?
What?
Oh, he's charging. Oh! Oh my god! Oh. Gave him the 1-inch punch. What the heck was that? He didn't do it to me, but I felt a little jolt too. That was chi energy. It affects the body directly without any physical contact. Sorry, we didn't have much time, so I had to be a little rough. How are you feeling?
Sorry, I'm fine now.
You definitely should have ate that out.
I still don't remember everything, but a good chunk of it is coming back to me. I lost control of my body because of that.
What do you remember?
I told you before, remember? About that accident 3 months ago?
You lost your memory while on a job, right?
Yes. I was asked to investigate a group dressed in black, and I managed to seize a suspicious item they were transporting. It was some kind of black orbment.
The person who asked you to investigate them, was it?
Yes, it was your father, Cassius. I immediately sent that orbment to him by parcel. That's what I just remembered.
Wait, does that mean the K who sent the parcel was...
Yes, that was me. I recall including a note suggesting that Professor Russell analyze it. So, you two were the ones who received that package.
And this was back in the second city, I think? Right at the end of the second city. Well, with Mayor Maybell, I think. Kurt, do you remember anything after that? What happened to you after you sent the parcel to our father?
Well, after leaving the landing port, someone called out to me. And then... No, it's like there's a fog over it. I can't remember anything else.
Someone called out to him at the landing port. You shouldn't push yourself to trying to remember. You only strain your body.
Yeah, right. Just recalling that much feels like it took a lot out of me.
But who would do something like this? Could the special ops have done something to you? I suppose that's possible. They did use that poison on Agate. It seems like they're developing and testing special chemical compounds. It could have been some kind of drug that causes memory loss. That's a new level of creepy. So it might be the same thing that was used on the Sky Pirate boss and Mayor Dalmore, huh? We'll need to keep our guard up, too.
Sorry, I haven't even addressed why you came here in the first place. Understood about the Queen's request. Please, let me help.
Oh, Kurt. But are you sure you're okay, Kurt?
Yes, I feel much lighter after recovering some of my memory. I'd like to help, if only to settle things once and for all.
Looks like you're in a fighting shape. There's gonna be a strategy meeting, so head to the guild first.
Understood. I owe you one.
Gathering our heroes, our bracers. Nice, so that's all the bracers.
Enjoy your stay.
There's some more questions. Some questions were answered with Kurt, and some more questions were raised in the process. Okay, so next up, to find Niall and Julia Schwartz. We'll do Niall first. Oh, Niall, I'm home. Sorry, I needed sippy. Chief, this is strange. We haven't heard from him in 2 days. Though again, we probably got wrapped up chasing a big scoop. But with this whole martial law thing, no contact does seem strange. Oh? Oh, Estelle, Joshua. Hey there, Dorothy. Good afternoon. Ah, you're the kids that won the World Tournament. I'm the chief editor of Liberal News. I've heard quite a lot about you from Niall and Dorothy. You're Estelle and Joshua from the Bracer Guild, correct? Yep, nice to meet you. Pleasure to meet you. I always look forward to reading each issue of the Liberal News. That's always what I like to hear. So, did you come by to see Niall? That's right. Actually, we were just talking about that. Niall hasn't shown up to the office for the past 2 days. There's been no contact with him at all. What? Yesterday and today? We just spoke with Niall here 2 days ago. Really? You were the one who gave us his message, Dorothy. After the semifinals, we came back here to talk to him. Oh yeah, now that you mention it, I sort of remember that. Hey, did Niall mention anything? Like if he planned on going somewhere or something? I think he was called away by... Yeah, he had the phone call. He hits the phone here. Yeah, that's right. Somebody called him and he went out somewhere. Are you two serious? Yes. So he hasn't checked in since we last spoke with him. No way. Is he dead? Hey, don't jinx it. By the way, the airliners aren't running today, but maybe they were running yesterday and he went to another region? I checked with the landing port and his name wasn't on any of the passenger lists. I think it's safe to say he's still somewhere in the city. When you last saw this reporter friend of yours, did he mention he was working on some kind of story? What? With the way things are going, I bet the Army's been keeping you guys on a pretty tight leash. Isn't that right, Chief? Yes, that's exactly what they're doing. Especially when it comes to anything involving the Intelligence Division. Nothing but pure censorship. Censorship. Enunciate. It's enough to make my blood boil. Given the current climate, there aren't a lot of stories he could run with. But as a reporter, he probably still wants to give readers something fresh and engaging, right? That's true. Something new and newsworthy that also wouldn't get blocked by the Intelligence Division's censorship. Did Niall mention anything along those lines? Now that you mention it. I think it was Claudia's marriage you talked about. Ah, the Duke did mention that at the banquet. So Niall mentioned it to all of you, did he? It'd be a massive scoop if it turns out to be true. He said he tried to confirm it, but how'd Niall find out about that anyway? It's not really the kind of information anybody outside the royal family should know, right? I think he said he heard it from a friend who works at the Irby Royal Villa. Off the record, she said that terrorists might be targeting the princess. Apparently, she's secretly being protected at the Royal Villa. I knew it. That's all the confirmation we need. The friend who contacted him that day works at the villa, and it's very likely Niall is at the villa too. I see. Knowing Niall, I could see him try to sneak in to interview Her Highness. If the guards caught him, he might have been arrested. Ah! Niall's going to die! Oh please, he's not going to die. But if they got him, I doubt they're just going to release him. Yeah. He's probably in the same situation as Princess Claudia. Wait, what do you two know? You know something about what's happening in the capital? No, in all of Liberal, don't you? Sorry, I don't think we can talk about it yet. Please leave Niall to the Bracer Guild. If he's being held, we'll make sure he gets released. Alright. Then I'll leave it to you. Please, Estelle, everyone. You've got to save Niall. Yep, just leave it to us. You've increased by 4. Nice. Oh, I need to check on... I'll wait till after I get Julia next. Because I'm getting close to that the final prize for doing all the side stuff. Which should solidify my efforts in the finale. Okay, so let me save. Alright. Here we'll look for Julia. The Captain of Royal Guard, posing as this nun. It's not Julia. It's Julia. Oh, Julia. Where are you? Wrong side. This is a really nice church. Not religious at all, but what do you call it? Architecture. I really like architecture. The architecture of churches, and well, I guess it's a cathedral. At least they call it a cathedral. Look at that. The goddess. Archbishop Current. Current, yeah. Ah, you are. Well, we're from the Bracer Guild. We were wondering if Sister Ellen is here in the cathedral today. Ah, but you must be the ones working with her. Wait, what? It seems you're already fully aware of the situation. She asked us to help with something, and we came to report it. I'm afraid she's no longer staying at the cathedral. Earlier this morning, she said her goodbyes and departed. Where'd she go? Regrettably, I can't say for certain. I've known the royal family for some time, so I was more than willing to shelter her here. But as for this matter, she kept the details to herself. I suspect she didn't want the church getting mixed up in her affairs. I see. Still, you may rest assured. When she left, her eyes were filled with a hopeful light. It wasn't despair or recklessness that drove her to leave. It does make me feel a little better, I guess. Still, sounds like we're not getting in touch with the Royal Guard anytime soon. Well, no use complaining about it now. Best we set aside contacting the Royal Guard for the time being. Yeah, it's disappointing, but we'll have to manage without them. This road you walk, it's fraught with hardship, isn't it? It is said that the goddess aids those who aid themselves. As long as you do your best, the goddess will see fit to light your way. Makes me wonder if there's like a pope. Goddess. Adios. A sky pope. Okay, so... return to the guild, collect the BP, and then I'll check the equipment stores once more to see if I can get the I don't think I can get the finale weapons yet, the ultimate weapons. I think it might be after this next part, but we'll see. Alright, everyone has been spoken to.
You don't have anything to report.
So I'm 13 away. 13 BP away. I get it before we, this next part. Seems like all the bracers have assembled. Were you able to get in touch with that reporter in the Royal Guards? We couldn't reach either of them. I think we gathered enough information, though. Joshua and Estelle shared the information obtained from the magazine office and cathedral. I see. So Princess Claudia is being held at the Irby Royal Villa. As for the Royal Guard, it is unfortunate, but at least we know they haven't been captured. Should we get started? Let's do it. Let's put our heads together and figure out how to save those hostages.
And those are the
All
details
bracers.
of the Intelligence Division's ongoing coup plan. With this in mind, the Bracer Guild Grancel branch intends to accept Her Majesty's request.
To think such a grand conspiracy was unfolding right under our noses. I can't believe I failed to see it. How infuriating.
Sure, those special ops guys always looked shady, but Colonel Richard's a pretty cool guy, so I totally believed him.
And I can't believe they were pulling the strings with the Sky Pirates and Mayor Dalmore incidents. Guess they really underestimated us bracers, huh?
That's right. No way we're letting them get away with this.
Then, may I take it that everyone is willing to lend their support?
Of course.
Feel free to put us to work.
I'll be paying them back. With interest.
With interest.
You better believe I'm in.
Kurt is the last guy I thought would say a line like that.
Wow, guess things are heating up.
Yeah, it's definitely reassuring.
Now, let us plan the specific details of the rescue operation. With the lives of the hostages at stake, we don't have much time. It's not elegant, but we'll have to aim for a straightforward base assault.
We've got no time to find a way to infiltrate, so that seems like the only option.
But if we're attacking the villa, how should we divvy up the roles?
It would be best to split up into a decoy team and an assault team. We could create some type of diversion to draw the forces away from the villa and send the other team for the rescue.
Remember, our opponents are the Special Ops, the Intelligence Division's best of the best. If possible, we could use an ambush team during the diversion and a disruption team during the assault.
Yeah. What?
The ambush team would rush the enemies drawn out by the decoy attack, while the disruption team would confuse the enemy, making the assault easier.
Yeah, still. You didn't pick up on it?
Oh, I get it. But we can't split into that many teams, can we?
Unfortunately, we contacted the other branches, but with the landing ports and checkpoints closed, other bracers can't make it.
Oh, right. If only Sharon and Agate were here.
And as Zen mentioned, only having two teams is extremely risky. we may need to consider an alternative plan.
No need for that. We'll make up for the lack of manpower.
There she is.
Lieutenant Schwartz.
Oh, you're the sister from the scenic route.
It's an honor to formally meet you. I am First Lieutenant Julia Schwartz, the commander of the Royal Guard. I ask that you allow us to join your operation.
Her hair reminds me of mint ice cream. Maybe I should get that to myself. I see. Very well. So you and your 8 guards will be assisting us. They're currently lying low within the royal capital, but I can have them all together within the hour. That's great and all, but how did you figure out we were planning to rescue the hostages, Lieutenant Schwartz? We went to the cathedral to tell you, but you'd already left. I see. My apologies for that. However, I was already aware you had accepted a request from Her Majesty. I learned of it last night. Last night? But that was right after we met with the Queen. Your hair reminds me of Jamie Lee Curtis. Oh, now that you mention it, yeah, it kind of does. Indeed it was. You have a special way to communicate that even the Intelligence Division doesn't know about. Your Majesty gave us direct orders to assist you. A special way to communicate. Let's see. How should I put this? You can skip the details for now. What matters is what the ambush and disruption teams are covering. Correct. This increases our chances of success significantly. Let's get to it and assign everyone the roles. Hi. We'll begin with the decoy team. 5 of my Royal Guards will take care of it. Frankly, if members of the Royal Guard show up, the enemy is bound to take the bait. Precisely. We'll specifically target the Special Ops frigate on the outskirts of the scenic route. Special Ops frigate? You mean the airship those soldiers were on? So it's docked on the far side of the scenic route. Now that you mention it, there was a blocked off area that we couldn't get to. According to my sources, Special Ops are posted there around the clock. We'll strike, forcing them to alert the villains and send reinforcements our way. So that's the plan. And then the ambush team will wipe out the reinforcements, right? If that's the case, it's best to leave the ambush team to us. Exactly. We're used to fighting in the forest due to all our monster hunting. Plus, we've got a gunner. Perfect for this, wouldn't you say? Absolutely. Now, as for the disruption and assault teams, the disruption team will consist of Royal Guard members as well. That way, we'll attract as many Special Ops soldiers as possible. So that means we'll be the assault team and free the hostages. I refrain from mentioning Jamie Lee Curtis's giant Mommyville curses, so it'd be cool. And I remember when that image went around. Well, I'll leave it at that. I will also refrain from mentioning the milkers. It's an important role, but it only works once everyone else has set the stage. Let's make sure we're at the top of our game. What makes it worse is because Jamie Lee Curtis is like the greatest scream queen that ever existed. Because Halloween is like one of my favorite movies ever. I need to turn up the pressure. Don't need to overthink it. You're the team that conquered the Royal Tournament, aren't you? We'll handle the bulk of the enemies. You guys just focus on rescuing the hostages. Lieutenant Schwartz, everyone. We're not rescuing them alone. We're counting on everyone. Together, I'm sure we can do this with the power of friendship. You bet. And endgame builds. Okay, let's do this. That's the spirit. Thus concludes our strategy meeting. The operation will take place tonight under cover of darkness. Once the operation begins, you won't have a chance to return to the city. If you'd like to gather any supplies of the ambush, now's the time. Ah, good idea. I'll contact my subordinates still in hiding throughout the city. Alright, let's part ways for now. Okay, so I'm just gonna go over. I'm gonna check the store one more time.
Hey, welcome.
I can't decide.
So,
Doesn't
what'll
look
it
like
be?
Okay. Yeah, no reason to upgrade now, but oh, you can upgrade the. Oh, okay, hold on, hold. CP game rate 60%. This will be good.
You.
Victory heart. Ah, I see. Okay, so one thing that confused me a little bit was that these in previous games gave complete immunity as they were, but in this game you have to upgrade them once to get the complete immunity. Okay. So, I'm not going to waste any more U materials.
See you
on that,
later.
though. Now, Joshua. Grail ring, grail pendant, or skull pendant rather. A bracelet. We're gonna hold on to that for if Agate comes back to the party. We go over their orbments real fast. Action 3, Ruby Shield, Sweet Aroma. Deathblade. This isn't the best, I don't think. I don't really have much else. He doesn't actually lose anything with blind. Oh, he loses some strength though. Okay, so I guess it is a strong one on him. We have an HP 3? No. He's got hit, he's got break. Okay. We're basically set for now then. Go ahead and save. I'm about to start overwriting soon. I report now.
Anything to report.
Helen, please. Hello, Brazers. Once the operation begins, you would have a chance to return to the city. Are you ready to go? Yes, we're basically as ready as we're gonna get. Of course. Alright, let's use the time we have to hammer out the final details of the plan. I could run around and eat food and cook for the stats, but it's not that big a deal, I don't think. I've been doing okay so far.
So, this is the spot, right?
Should be. The rest area with the Ambral Stone Monument. My only concern is if Lieutenant Schwartz and her team can get here without being spotted.
You needn't worry about that.
Whoa! When did you guys get here?
I'm impressed you managed to hide so many people in the royal capital.
We have many supporters within the city who helped us stay hidden. Our preparations are complete, so we are ready to begin whenever you are.
All right. Estelle, I'd like you to give the command.
What? Me?
This mission is a personal request from Her Majesty to you.
Yep. It makes sense that it starts on your orders.
But I'm still a rookie.
That doesn't matter. Nobody here's complaining.
Try not to shout too loudly, alright?
We're only here to assist. You'll hear no objections from us.
Okay.
Estelle, believe in yourself.
He's right. Don't overthink this. These things are all about going with the flow.
Right. To all mission personnel, the Airbay Royal Villa hostage rescue operation will now begin.
Like daughter, like father.
Oh, I'm starving. Our shift should be over soon, right?
Hey, don't slack off now. The Royal Guard's still hiding somewhere out there. They could show up anytime.
Oh, come on. There aren't even 10 of them left, right? Colonel could hunt them down in no time if he wanted to.
I'd like to see him try.
Ooh, it's on, bitch.
What? Royal Guard Commander Julia Schwartz!
Listen up. We've received a report from the Special Ops frigate. The remaining Royal Guard members are there taking a final stand. Head to the scene immediately and wipe what's left of them out. Roger!
And they were done in. promptly.
That takes care of that.
You fools! The frigate is locked. You won't be able to use it so easily. If you had simply obeyed the Colonel, you might have kept your lives. Feel free to curse your own stubbornness as you die. Attack!
I like his voice. As you die.
Bracers!
It was a ruse.
You two intend to defy the army?
I hate to break it to you, but you're the one defying the kingdom.
On behalf of Her Majesty, we won't hold back.
Okay, the ambush team is in action.
We'll go in first and distract the remaining forces at the front yard. While they're occupied, you must make your way inside the villa.
Got it.
May Adios watch over you.
All right. And then we just turn around and leave. Lead them to their fates. Ooh, the counter.
Good, good. Looks like they're keeping them busy. Now's our chance to break in.
Okay.
Understood.
Into the villa.
The Airbay Royal Villa. Wow. It's just
Airbay.
as
Okay, I've been saying
luxurious as the
Irby.
castle.
Entire time.
Well, it is a royal building.
Hold up. We've got company.
Who are you?
We don't need to tell you anything,
Your
you villain.
DoorDash deliverer.
There's no time for this. We're coming through.
Let's focus.
Already. I have no. Fuck! I should have went to the fucking the hotel. Oh well. Actually, what I should do, optimize this just a little bit.
Thanks. Let's go.
I'll back you up.
Everyone, let's go. Go for it,
It's
Sid.
nice. Okay.
Come on, over here.
Healing. You're a lifesaver. Payback time.
I'll show no mercy.
Okay. I'm really glad that I gave Joshua that
Let us
I gave him that quartz that gave him more HP. Definitely needed it. Or was it an item? It was an item that gave him more HP. Okay, I'm gonna go guard. Use? Yes, nice.
Here we go. Dragon breath. Go through me. Now, Joshua.
Let us begin.
This is the end. Payback time.
Get rid of it.
This.
God, they would all move out of the fucking area. Oh well. That's a cool ass spell. Holy crap. Okay, so it being a mage tank, I suppose I want to focus on. Focus one though. Zero cast on Zin, very nice.
Wide open.
Oh Nice. And his buff up.
You're mine.
Okay, Josh is gonna get a free heal, which is nice.
Leave it to me.
Okay.
Let us begin.
I hope he doesn't move. Fucking move. Okay.
Stand back.
Payback time.
I should be able to hit one, and I can money break.
Payback time.
So it's gonna be a heal. He's
Sit.
shape. There's a black fang. I should steal all their buffs that they're gonna get. Man, that crit Joshua is online. That makes me happy. Okay, I need to heal up Zin. You can heal up Estelle as well.
Thanks. Ready anytime. Prepare yourself. Finish them off. Ready? And
Okay, I hope I can kill two of them.
gotcha.
Nice, Joshua to finish.
Here we go.
Finish him off with the Gallic gun.
Eat this. There. Aural blast. Gotcha.
Follow. Nice. Okay, it's two down, and we just have one left.
My turn.
He's stunned, so let's go ahead and whip his ass.
Josh, let's do it.
Oh, he's got a recast and crit. And dead.
All right, now, where do you think they're holding the princess?
The building's not very big. We'll just have to search it room by room.
If we take too long, the soldiers out front will come back. Let's get a move on.
I want to definitely heal these two. I should have bought more potions, but we'll be fine. Recharge the mana back. Okay. Have anything with the... do I? Evident health to 60. Have CP. She's gonna straight up. Okay, this will work.
That was satisfying. That was
And a
delicious.
little buffer on the CP. So I gotta start overwriting. Alright, let's go this way first. What the? Who are you? Dogs. Intruders. Don't move a muscle. Okay. Get our combo going.
Let's go.
Leave it to me.
Okay, Joshua's got some... Way to break this time. That means I can start doing some nonsense. Confuse.
Don't move.
Confuse and crit.
Wide open. Here we go.
Suppose I could just kind of be more offensive with the Zid. Shaolin kick.
Wide open. Eat this. Don't move.
This didn't steal from Estelle. So I'm gonna go ahead and guard everybody. Oh, Joshua's got a nice big crit coming.
Let's go.
Go ahead and use that right away. Black Bang!
Now it's my
So
turn.
I'll hit them hard while they're still stunned because they do bonus damage. Well, blast.
Aural
burst.
Okay. Let's do this.
That was close. I'm gonna use Estelle's limit break because I want her to have morale for the next fight. Ah, you fucking enraged. That's fine. You got Earth Guard up, so.
My turn. Get crushed.
Nice.
Wide open. Meet your end.
Ready at any time. I'm going all out.
We got delay.
I'll finish you off.
And Zen with the kicker. Nice. That was close. They came out of nowhere. There are still quite a few soldiers inside the villa. Looks like they're patrolling the hallway leading to the courtyard. If they spot us, we'll just have to take them out.
There's so many doors.
Heal up again. God, this entire time I forgot that these meals existed until just after the last one.
That was satisfying.
These are very helpful. Good like that.
Do we really have to check them all?
It's a pain, but we've got no choice. Eyes up, stay alert.
It tells you which ones to go to, which is funny. Let's see what's behind these doors. It's the library. Atlas Bomb X. Revive and heal 3000. The Phoenix down. Not bad. Not bad. Nothing else hidden in here. What about here? East guest room. Nothing. And here. East guest room number 2. Ooh. Serum cap. Oh, very nice. Serum capsule. Always helpful. That gives a full limit break charge.
Let's focus. Let's do this. Go for it, Sin.
I want to steal his crit if I can.
I won't let you.
Payback time.
There's always food that gives you buffs and usually mitigates or in Japanese games, so you really enjoy cooking. Yeah, it's in like, especially JRPGs, they always have them in, have cooking in them. I think if I was playing at a higher difficulty, I'd absolutely want to get, or do the cooking more, because you do get permanent buffs when you eat a new plate. Permanent stat ups.
It flinched. Estelle, do it.
The main downside is that you have to eat a meal in order to learn its recipe, which means that you kind of waste it, I guess. Nice crit. We'll burst.
Hit him down.
Leave it to me.
Let's do this.
Joshua gets healed.
I'll be your opponent.
Already had max HP. Liquor.
Too late. I'll finish you off.
Now I'm mad.
Okay.
Full power.
You attack these to get a free strike.
Have another.
Big rage. Yeah. I should count on that, but that's fine.
This is the end.
Did our big tank.
Payback time.
Stagger tank. Another rage.
Now it's my turn.
Oh, he stole Zin's crit. What the fuck, man?
How's this?
So you like this?
And take this.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay, I'm not gonna go in there just yet. Oh, actually, I'll go in here though. Yeah, I'll go in here. These side rooms, because there's items. The throne of the late king. A chair favored by the late King Edgar III during his stays at the Urban Royal Villa. Ah, plate. A beautiful plate is on display. Not beautiful. That is one nice plate. An imperial-style vase is placed here. Or as some may call it, a vase. Art catalogs line up here. Yeah, nothing super interesting. Drawing room. What's it called? A drawing room? Or is it item here? Maybe charge. I guess it's a mana potion. Not gonna go in here just yet. Go here first. Items, items. Nothing. In here? Items? Items? Items. Ah, all heal. Nice. Another fight? Yep.
Let's end this. Payback time.
Ready at any time.
Critical. Reverse.
We'll finish this. Ready and
Applies a lot of damage.
Estelle, do it.
Still with the morale.
Let's do this.
Here we go.
Okay, so Sin.
How's this?
I get both of these guys. Nice.
Take this. Heralding fist. Follow my lead, Estelle.
One punch.
Here we go.
Stone impact.
Get crushed. I'm on fire.
Okay, Joshua gets a CP up. I think he can limit break. Maybe.
Payback time.
Get enough?
I'll be your opponent.
Nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and No, we'll just use it. This is a guaranteed crit.
Farewell.
Break from all these sides. This is the boss. Regard the break.
Faster.
Break is my favorite character. I'm the trash man. I trash all over the place.
Now it's my turn.
Come on. There we go.
Let's make this easy.
Oh, maybe not. There we go.
Here we go.
I was like, I need a limit break. The boss.
There. Arrow blast.
I dropped my monster carnival by Magnum Dawn. Danny DeVito in general's he's a goddamn treasure.
I'll be your
You almost
opponent.
drowned while shooting the first episode. For some reason, that doesn't surprise me.
I'll finish you off.
Okay. Doesn't look like there's items down here. I can ignore these dogs. I'm not hurting for XP either. But save. I got the slots. I'll do this one first. The lounge. Ah, bar time. Who are you? Oh, there's quite a crowd in here. What do you want? Hey, I don't recognize you guys. Good evening. We're from the Bracer Guild. Huh? And it's way past your bedtime. Lay your head down for a little nap now, okay? Yeah, the masty. That's funny.
You're a lifesaver. Now I'm mad.
Alrighty then.
Take 'em all.
Kill these drunkards.
Time to strike. Payback time.
Payback time!
Let's go.
Okay, I think it's Evil Eye. This is a crit. I think his animation changes whether it's a crit or not, which is actually really cool. He's like the backflip sometimes.
Let's do this! It's over! Wide open! Faster!
Master.
All yours, Sin.
We got a couple of confuses off. Alright, Sin. Show him what for. Wappa!
Eat this!
Payback time. You'll pay for that.
Cheat, still bonus.
I can take 'em all.
Hurricane, strength down. Let's be nice.
Hurricane!
You're mine!
With the black thing.
Follow my lead, Joshua.
Oh, nice.
This is the end.
Nice, they're all staggered. Ah, they didn't rage though. Ah, that's fine. That's it.
I'll be your opponent. Let us begin.
Oh, I didn't even notice the heal. Oh well,
Ready anytime!
that's fine.
How's this?
Did show him what for.
You're mine.
Wide open! Follow my lead, Estelle!
Ooh. This should be the other amount of Joshua's cast. I could use another feast. Alrighty. Did with a level up, nice. Phew, done and dusted. They were pretty drunk, so unsatisfying. Made the fight too easy. This looks like the lounge in the castle where they serve drinks. Please, spare my life. I'm not one of them, I swear. Yeah, we get it. You're part of the villa staff, right? We're here on a mission for Her Majesty, to rescue all those being held here. Really? Are you really here to rescue us? Yes, so you can relax now. Oh, thank goodness. Ever since my journalist friend was captured, I've been so terrified. I hope he's safe. Your journalist friend? Oh, are you the guy Niall was talking about? Huh? They explained the circumstances surrounding Niall's disappearance. I see, that's right. I was the one who contacted Niall that time. He was keen to interview the princess who was under protection here. He was so persistent that I couldn't say no, so I helped sneak him in. And that's when he got caught. Yes, I'm ashamed to say it was only then that I realized the truth. I'd been told that the princess was brought here to keep her safe from terrorists. Dun dun. But it seems like she was actually being held here against her will by those people from the intelligence division. I was so thrilled at the thought of her being here that I was too blind to see what was actually going on. What a poor excuse for a butler I am. Hey, don't be so hard on yourself. So, do you know where the captives are? Yes, they're being held in the Emblem Room, at the very back of the building. It's a grand hall traditionally used for treaty signings and other formal ceremonies. The Emblem Room at the back, right? Okay, let's get a move on. Oh, he actually has a shop.
Will you be staying?
Oh, this is a rest, I see. Oh, do I get limit break back?
This feels great.
Nope. Damn.
Please be careful.
That's a shame, but I still have items. What is this?
Good grub.
Okay. The mana back. Alright. I realized now I did not need to use those mana potions. Oh, that's fine. Alright. In here. The Grand Hall. The door is locked. No way. This lock is too sturdy to break open. We need to find the key. Maybe we should ask that young butler. Almost right past him. Butler. They explained that the door at the back was locked. Oh right, that door is locked, huh? I think the Special Ops commander should have the key. But it appears he left when he heard some terrorist dun-dun had shown up. What? He must have gone to where Lieutenant Schwartz and the others are. Well, that's not good news. We don't have time to go back there now. Hold on. There should be a spare key for that door somewhere. If I remember correctly, it's hidden somewhere in the gallery. Gallery? Got it. Let's hurry and go find it. I wonder if you can actually get the key early without talking to the butler. Alright, let's... Here? Usually saw vases placed here. Estonia is the best game, nothing fun originals. Okay, what about this one? This vase. Yep. The bookshelf? No. Can't get in there. What about this one? Ah! There's a large crimson vase. When Estelle and the others examined it, they saw something stuck to the bottom. Spare key. Aha, here it is. Now we should be able to unlock the door in the back. There we go. Use spare key.
Hold on tight, princess.
Oh, better save.
2 more to go. We're almost there.
Who are you?
I feel like I've seen you before. Oh, you're the winners of the Royal Tournament.
Wait, you're those bracers?
You better believe it.
If you let us through, we'll go easy on you. Sound good?
Don't underestimate us.
Just try breaking through our iron defenses if you think you can.
Let's focus.
Spearmans. Not approve. Not approve. Okay.
Faster!
Here we go.
Can delay.
How's this?
Can't get a back bonus on both.
Wreck you.
Ah, just one. What a shame. Go on.
Take this. Pounding fist.
Don't underestimate me! You're mine!
You missed.
My turn.
How embarrassing. How embarrassing.
I won't let you! You're mine!
Payback time.
I'll be your opponent.
Should probably actually Chaos Spirit on him. Let's make this go by a little bit faster.
Leave it to me.
Yeah, make them both confused. And both fight each other.
Here we go.
Yeah!
Let's go.
Come on. Come on.
Don't underestimate me!
Sit.
Nice. There we go.
Faster.
Perfect. Yes, ignores it. Just hit each other.
Tide of battle. Unleashing. Let us begin.
Leave it to me.
Another crit. And I confuse.
Faster.
Very nice, Joshua.
Let's go.
Another zero cast.
Sit.
Here we go.
Does Zin have a steal? Nah, he doesn't. Oh well.
Take this. Pounding fist.
Does Stell have a steal? Oh no, Zin got it up. Nice. Alright.
Here we go.
This is nice and simple.
Get crushed.
Sit. Flinched. We'll finish this. Leave it to me. Let's do this.
These guys are really tanky for no reason. They don't deserve to be this tanky.
You're mine.
Here, Estelle.
How's this?
Let's go.
Everyone, let's go.
Perfect move.
Never allowed to move. Never allowed to have a turn. Oh, yeah, I can play the game. Not them. It's so cool.
Let's go.
There we go. Easy. I will need mana for Joshua though. Still swing. Alright.
You guys.
Hi, hi. Never fear, we are here.
Glad to see you in one piece, Niall.
Rescue? Are you serious?
Estelle, Joshua, to think we'd meet in a place like this.
Huh? Oh, so you're the princess. Pleasure to meet you. We're from the Bracer Guild, and
I wouldn't say it's nice to meet you. It's more like nice to see you again, Estelle and Joshua, as promised.
huh? Wait, Chloe? Is that you?
Chloe is the princess.
Honestly, Estelle,
Her hair's down.
how is it that you did not recognize me right away?
Well, I mean, you're wearing a dress and your hair's longer. Hold up. What's going on?
Sorry, Chloe. Estelle can be a bit naive when it comes to things like this.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean?
I think that's one of Estelle's most endearing qualities. And Joshua, I'm glad you still feel comfortable calling me by that name.
Yeah, I had a feeling you would. Unless you'd prefer your real name.
Not at all. Thank you. I'm delighted.
So, what exactly are you doing here, Chloe? And where's that princess everyone keeps talking about?
Oh my god, Estelle.
She's right in front of you. This young lady here is none other than Her Highness Princess Claudia, the Queen's granddaughter.
Huh? What?
I'm sorry for keeping it a secret. I was planning to tell you when we met again, but I was captured by Colonel Richard.
But why? Why hide your identity and go to a boring, ordinary school? And what do I even call you now, Chloe?
Please, keep calling me Chloe, as you always have. Claudia von Auslays. Chloe is a nickname from the first and last letters of my full name.
Okay.
KL. This must be like a Japanese. This must be like a localization thing. Chloe's name. First last letter is my full name. Yeah.
But what about your hair?
Oh, this is just a hairpiece. I thought keeping the same hairstyle might make it a bit obvious at school.
Unbelievable. Even though I'd seen photos, I didn't recognize you at all when we met during that incident with the mayor.
Sorry about that. Uncle Doonan and Mayor Delmore didn't notice either. This disguise worked better than I expected.
Oh, right! You and the Duke are related. Wait, I almost forgot something super important.
They explained the situation that the Queen sent them to rescue everyone.
I see. Estelle, Joshua, and Zen, was it? Thank you all so much for coming to rescue us.
Don't mention it. I would have come to get you, Chloe, even without a request.
Estelle.
She's right. But I believe Her Majesty deserves your gratitude more than we do. She risked her own safety to ask us to rescue you.
I think she's a very good speller. Yeah, I think it must be like localization too.
In fact, as long as you're safe, the Queen will be able to resist the Colonel's demands.
I feel like in the original game she said that, like, she put it together a little bit more. She said it better.
She might even be prepared to give up her life in defiance.
Yes. That's exactly the type of person Grandmother is. I fear her life could be in grave danger unless we do something.
Enough with this charade.
Uh-oh.
Princess!
They have a child.
Brienne? Why is this little girl here?
She's General Morgan's granddaughter. They must have brought her here to control the General. He's being held at Hawken Gate.
Just like how they were using you to control Her Majesty.
Do not mistake this as some empty threat. We of the Intelligence Division will do whatever it takes to achieve our goals.
That's not something you should brag about.
Commander, let's make a deal. Take me as a hostage in her stead.
Please, I'm not falling for that. Even we aren't foolish enough to lay a finger on a royal. A general's granddaughter, however, will do just fine. She's a valuable hostage, and harming her wouldn't ruffle any feathers.
You people are
trash.
And you're rotten to the core. Say whatever you want. The patrol unit from Kirsch Avenue should be returning soon. We'll capture all of you, the Royal Guard embracers, in one fell swoop.
I wouldn't put faith in that. We took care of them on our way here.
Ooh! The Whip Bobby's back.
What?
Just in the nick of time. I'm gonna cry at happiness too.
Oh, there. You're all right now. Hey, Estelle. Hi, Joshua. Been a while, hasn't it?
Shara?
It's been an entire game.
You came to help us?
This isn't the time for a reunion!
My, how unrefined you are.
Oh, man.
That one's on the house.
Yikes. That was intense. Wait, that shot.
Olivier?
Ding, ding, ding.
And Matt Mercer.
Quite a grand entrance for the main character, wouldn't you say?
Spray him.
Always with a flair of drama. And Sherazard, it's been a long time, hasn't it?
It sure has. It's good to see you, Zin. I can't believe you're in Liberal. When I heard you were watching over these two, I knew I had nothing to worry about.
You put a little too much faith in me. And you've blossomed into a stunning young woman. I almost didn't recognize you.
Oh, you think so?
My heart is consumed by the green flame of jealousy. Carelessly, you toyed with my affection, only to toss me aside like nothing more than garbage.
Oh, Olivier, Ina said she wanted to see you. Something about getting another drink.
My deepest apologies. Forget I said anything on this matter.
Good grief. Some things never change.
But Shara,
how did you make it into the capital? I thought the Royal Army closed the borders.
They did. That's why I crossed Valeria Lake in a boat and docked at the pier in the capital.
Ah, how very clever.
But how'd you end up with that flaky musician?
Bumped into him at the Grancel branch. He followed me like a little lost puppy, so I had no choice but to bring him along.
There was no way a hero like me could pass up something so exciting. By the by, is this enchanting young lady?
Oh, let me introduce you. This is Princess Claudia, the Queen's granddaughter. She's a friend of ours.
A pleasure to meet both of you. Thank you ever so much for coming to our aid.
Please think nothing of it. It's our duty as bracers.
It is the pleasure of any gentleman to rescue a princess so fair as you. It's an honor to meet you, Princess.
Chloe, are you all right?
Send the Royal Guard.
Sieg!
Pewee! Pewee.
I'm very glad we were able to meet again.
Your Highness, I am so glad you're safe. Truly, I am very, very relieved.
And you too, Julia. It's so good to see you safe as well.
Eventually, the Bracers and Royal Guards, who had been creating a diversion, joined up with them. After allowing the other hostages to rest, Estelle and the others decided to assess the situation. I hope I got enough BP. Especially now that Shira's back.
Truly, I beg your forgiveness. It was my own incompetence that put you through all of this. If I could, I would tear apart my unworthy self with my bare hands.
Please don't say that. I'm so happy to see you again, and that both of us are safe. Thank you so much for coming to help us.
Your Highness.
Sorry to interrupt this touching moment, but why is Sieg here?
Pewee?
Sieg is Her Highness's guardian and the Royal Guard's messenger. He even delivered a letter to your hotel, remember?
Oh, that night?
So it was him. And that's how you knew about the Queen's request.
Yes. Her Majesty informed me directly through Sieg. But the place Her Highness was being kept had no windows, so Sieg couldn't enter. I was so worried when we couldn't reach her.
Honestly, it was a real surprise. Hey, Sieg, you could have at least said hello. We're friends, right?
Pewee.
He said, sorry about that.
I guess it's fine.
The actually said was, my sincerest apologies for the inconvenience, Estelle and or Joshua.
By the way, did you guys take care of the rest of the special ops?
All with that one Pewee.
The units stationed at the villa have been mostly detained. However, a considerable number remain at Grancel Castle.
The Royal Army forces around the kingdom are still under the control of the Intelligence Division. If we're not careful, they could attack this place as a rebel base.
Whoa, I didn't even think of that.
You're right. Maybe we should evacuate Chloe to a safer location.
Why not seek protection at the Erebonian or Calvard embassy? Embassies are extraterritorial, which would make it harder for them to interfere there.
We could also use the frigate we captured to seek asylum. It wouldn't solve the problem, but it might buy us some time.
That is true. How should we get her to safety?
Everyone? Would it be possible for me to make a request to the Bracers right now?
What?
Since the rescue mission is complete, I think it should be okay. Of course, it will depend on what the request is.
In that case, I ask, knowing it may be impossible. Could you help us liberate the castle and rescue Her Majesty?
Your Highness.
You're right. It's time we saved the Queen.
To be honest, I had a feeling that was where this conversation was heading. Your Highness, that's a very, very difficult request.
Right. Even if we gathered all our forces, taking the castle in a head-on assault is simply not possible.
If we use that special ops frigate, it might be. But we'll need a very well-planned strategy to pull it off.
I have an idea. Could you all please take a look at this?
Princess Claudia took out an old map. Rantel
What
Sewers.
is this a map of?
It's an ancient document detailing the Grancel sewers. Apparently, there's a hidden sewer that connects to the castle underground.
They did mention there was a hidden door in those sewers.
What is the meaning of this? How could we have lost contact with the Airbay Royal Villa?
The Royal Guard or the Bracer Guild. One or both of them may have taken it over.
How dare you speak so calmly? You, Lieutenant, were the one in charge of them.
My sincerest apologies. However, dwelling on the
gives no
past will do
fucks.
nothing for us now. We should focus on strengthening the castle's defenses to ensure Her Majesty isn't taken as well.
You do not have to remind me. Close the gates. No one in or out. I don't care who they are. Direct all personnel to prepare to defend against an aerial assault.
Understood.
Contact the other units and send them to the villa. If anyone asks, say it's a mission to suppress a terrorist group
Dun, dun.
impersonating the royal family.
Yes, ma'am!
What an impressive response.
Of course. Unlike you, I have experience. I will defend my post in the Colonel's absence, no matter what.
Amalthea. Surprised there was no mid-boss in that
I
operation.
will now explain the operation to liberate Grancel Castle and rescue Her Majesty the Queen. First, a 3-person team, led by Joshua, will infiltrate Grancel Castle's underground through the sewers. They will then head straight to the Royal Guard room and activate the gate control systems.
Got it.
Sounds like we get to light the big fireworks.
Regardless, it's a grand way to begin this drama's riveting final act.
Once the gates are open, the Royal Guard members and 4 bracers will storm the castle from the city. We'll make as much commotion as possible to keep enemy movements concentrated within the castle walls.
Leave it to us.
I'm ready to rumble.
And lastly, Your Highness, are you sure you won't reconsider?
I'm sorry,
Here's short again.
but I must be there to help save my grandmother.
Yes.
Besides, I do have some experience piloting an airship,
White Mage returns to the party.
so please allow me to contribute.
Ugh. If I'd known it would come to this, I never would have taught you to fly.
Lieutenant Schwartz, you worry too much. Just leave Chloe to us.
I swear on my name, Silver Streak, that I will protect her without fail.
Very well. I'll leave her in your care. While the enemy focuses on the inside, Estelle's team will land in the Garden Terrace using the Special Ops frigate. From there, they'll storm the Royal Keep and rescue Her Majesty Queen Alicia.
Understood.
The operation begins at noon. Everyone must be in their positions by then. Now, all units, commence operations.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. We're getting there.
Joshua, be careful, okay? And make sure you don't overdo it.
Yeah, I'll be careful. So don't get ahead of yourself, okay? Be sure to work together with Shara and Chloe.
Yeah, I know. We've got a promise to keep after all. We'll meet at Grancel Castle safe and sound.
Yeah, definitely.
Joshua, we don't know what kind of monsters might be in the sewers. So please, be careful.
Understood. I'll be careful.
And don't worry about Estelle. She's grown while traveling with you. Not just as a bracer, but also as a woman, it seems.
What does she mean by this?
Shira?
Huh?
Joshua. Huh?
What does that mean?
What does she mean?
You don't need to know yet.
Yeesh. You could count on these kids, even in a crisis.
Exactly. All right, time for us to head out.
Farewell, my little kittens.
May Adios watch over us.
We split the party between boys and girls.
Joshua.
Hey,
She said
Your
dreamily.
Highness. Don't you think something happened between those two?
I suppose it's possible. They both looked very happy. I'm a bit jealous.
All right. Regular soldiers have been replaced with special ops. I bet they're real strict now that they lost the villa. The mood here is seriously intense. See, times like these call for my lovely lute to lighten the tense air and bring soft harmony to all. You know, if you draw too much attention to yourself, that guy is going to find you again. What was his name? Mueller? Oh, right, him. Both of you, I implore you to stay far, far away from the Imperial Embassy. I don't think any of us have time for a trip to the embassy. As soon as we're ready, let's head down into the sewers. I need to
We
check
split the teams based on skill sets.
equipment.
Yet somehow, it's just us three guys here.
around? Nevertheless, we are hardly lacking in beauty ourselves. Let us see this mission through with both grace and style.
Right here.
Hey, right. Welcome. For the other sake, too. What do we need?
I simply cannot decide.
Well, it's only 2 material pluses. That's a sizable bump in power too. I suppose, since there's only going to be 3 of us, I suppose I should
I'll pick this.
get some upgrades going.
I'll pick this. See you later.
Okay, so... Now can I hand that in? That was a request completed. I hope I can hand this in. No side missions.
Let's check it out.
Already did that, okay. Hand this in.
Please do tell.
Yes! And there we go.
First class. That's amazing.
Rank 1. Promising newcomer. Achievement unlocked.
Congratulations.
Gladiator
Take this.
belt. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Let's see the rewards, so...
Please keep it up.
Speed 5, Strength Arts 20, Action CP plus 15. So I'm not gonna equip this just yet. Because I want to put it on Shira. No other side stuff. Can't leave the city. What I do want to do, though, is buy potions.
Oh, welcome. What do we need?
So, what'll it be?
Thanks.
This is not where to buy potions. Over here.
Not bad.
Hey, how you doing?
Here?
Are there any bargains?
Come
No,
again?
it's accessories.
Are
Here?
there any bargains?
Yes.
I simply cannot decide.
I made up my mind.
Somebody's going. Get a bunch of these.
I'll take this. I made up my mind.
We got lots of reses. Okay. And I'm not worried about any of that. Alright.
Thank you.
Welcome. This place is the best for shopping.
Now then. Save here for sure. This final chapter is very long. So I think next stream will be the finale, I think, the actual end of the game. Alright then. We'd better work out where that hidden sewer is. Right, give me a moment. Right now, we're at the staircase marked location in the bottom right. And the spot marked with equal in the center should be the entrance to the hidden sewer. I guess double dash. Equal sign. Okay. So let's head over to that spot first and check out the walls nearby.
A shadowy infiltration. A castle mired in conspiracy. Ah, a truly heart-racing affair. If fate smiles upon me, I might even reclaim a mere morsel of my tragically lost banquet. Leftovers, perhaps?
Are you still going on about missing the banquet?
Where the hell am I going?
You got guts worrying about that now.
There we go. Okay, yeah. Rub past all these things, they're not gonna give me any XP or anything neat, so.
Oh, that's quite the aura.
This should be the spot marked by the dash on the map. No sign of any mechanism as far as I can see. This is some impressive work by the royal family. Looks like we're going to have to go over this place with a fine-tooth comb. I'll start searching. Okay, I think this is it. Good job. Impressive stuff. So do you have some kind of trick for finding these little mechanisms? Not really a trick, no, it's really just practice. Over time, my fingers happen to naturally know where to go. Naturally, Joshua, you don't have a history of being some kind of gentleman thief, do you? You know, like the ones that appear in plays and old stories. What? We don't have time for this, let's get moving. The real action starts now. Alright, keep an eye on the map. What I should do, actually, while I'm thinking about it, can I make the eggnog? Oh, I need the liquor, I can't make the eggnog. Oh well. But the jelly beans are good though.
Alright, here you go. Yeah,
Yeah, liver break gauge. Not a whole lot, but a decent amount. Mansell Sewers Northern Block. Chest? No. What the hell is that? It's like a frog dog. Always left. Always left. Oh, left. Oh god, frog dog. More frog dogs.
Found treasure.
Aha! New materials. Very nice. Let's see how much XP these frog dogs give. Your frog dog.
I'll be your opponent.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
Play the next number.
Not going easy.
Finish them off.
Yes!
They're kind of, what's what I'm looking for? They're kind of weak. What if I'm over leveled? Okay, so.
Take this! Heralding fist!
I think these frog dogs might be not worth my time.
Now, Joshua!
But they're,
Too late!
yeah, that was a lot easier than I was expecting. Oh, they give it an okay amount of XP, I guess, but nothing worth really farming unless there's like 8 of them. Alright. Oh, frog dog.
Found treasure.
Nice. 7th. Well, all 7th, rather. Okay, frog dogs. By the way. See the grid. Frog dog. That looks like the way to go, so I'm not gonna go there just yet. There's something over here.
They have superior numbers. Stay on guard.
Frog dogs in a chest. Trap chest? Oh yes. Okay.
Chest. Use.
Go ahead and save here. Oh, I got a reward. What do we have here? Drop of life. What do we get on a still? Frog dogs.
Keep pushing! Faster!
Josh will speed up. Oh, they're called whale frogs. Okay.
I'll support you!
That boost.
What's wrong? You scared? You're up, Olivier!
Okay. They're all weak to lightning. Storm. Zero cast.
I won't let you!
Very nice. That was a sizable amount of damage.
Leave it to me.
Perfect move! Joshua!
With the black fang as well.
Have another!
Oh, one of them died.
Leave it to me.
Oh well.
Farewell.
Okay, the green frog dogs are very tanky. I got it. That's the boss one.
Prepare yourself!
Is that frog dog female? Is that what that sign says? I always forget those signs.
Hold up!
Well, they're now weak to. Just the little ones are weak to air. Okay.
You alright? Thanks. Finish them off! Of course.
With the burst. What if you can call more? Or she can call more? Then buff. Yep. Call mate.
Let's go!
The arrows, the guys, and pluses here. Okay.
Perfect move!
I see the frog dogs like they're females
Let us begin.
in sizable proportions. Oh, you moved out of the way. What the fuck, man?
Now it's my turn.
Weak to earth as well.
Hold on. Fire! I won't let you.
Whale pressure.
Payback time.
Zero cast. Perfect.
Wind. Stun. There.
Ready at any time.
Unleash it! Perfect move! Let us begin.
I'm glad Olivia has the fucking mass AoE wind spell.
You're mine! Fire! Joshua!
Arts boost, very nice.
For your troubles.
Faster!
Let's begin.
And another one. Enrage. Please don't enrage. No, Zin! No, Joshua!
Wind!
Yuck.
Let's go!
How's this?
Let's give her the fist.
Fire!
I'll buff you.
This should be it. I'm not gonna use my burst. I hope this is it.
Faster! Leave it to me.
Not quite. Come on. There we go. Good night, Frog Dog.
Not bad.
Level up. Very nice. Hidden Leaf. Oh man, okay. Accuracy, crit, 10%. Oh, what? Joshua? Orbit? Evasion. Wow, evasion, arts evasion, 25%. Damn. Okay, so this decreases chance of being attacked, but it's not super necessary. This might be the one to change. He just loses a sizable amount of strength with that, though. Strength. Crit. And he gets a shit ton of, wow. Oh man, 38% crit, 44% evade, 38% arts evade. I think that more than makes up for him not getting attacked. Alrighty then. It was well worth doing.
What you're made of. Such a lively audience.
Alright. Oh, he's left.
This chest looks good.
Elixir Spirit. Ah, you little fish bastards, out of my way.
We're not done yet. Next. Eat this. Gotcha. Play the next number.
Little fish. I wasn't gonna kill him, but they made it personal.
Gotcha. Strike them down. Gotcha.
Fudge.
Gotcha. I'm getting excited.
Oh, well, Olivia leveled up from that. Perfect.
Oh, that's
Frog dog.
quite the aura.
Let's go ahead and use this.
Phew, that hits the spot.
Items. So, there's a healing station, which means it's time to save. What time is it? We're making good time. Beyond the door, the path is blocked by a stone wall. Can't we go any further? It's okay. There's a hidden door switch like before. Okay, maybe better if we waited here until noon. Wait until noon. Okay, let's stay put until noon. When the time comes, we'll push on through. Good plan. Let's take this time to rest and recharge. And we switch to the girls' team. Alright, everyone, remain on standby. We'll move in at the stroke of noon. The Special Ops Frigate. Never thought I'd board something like this. How do I put it? There's something tacky about it. It could go head-to-head with that Sky Pirate ship. Still, there's no doubt that it's quite a high-performance craft. How did the Intelligence Division get their hands on something like this? Yeah, good point. There's so many things that don't make sense, like that gospel thingy. Your Highness, we've been waiting for you. Peyton, it's nice to see you again. Who's this? This is Peyton. He's in charge of maintaining the Arcee. Technically, I'm just a central factory technician on a temporary assignment. The Arcee is still in test flight stage, so we have to collect as much data as possible. Alright. But it looked like it was working just fine when we saw it in Ruan. Of course, regular flight is possible. But it can't reach its full potential. Development of the new orbital engine was delayed, so it has an older model. Anyway, the Arcee was seized by the Intelligence Division, so its test flights were postponed indefinitely. Lieutenant Schwartz called me in while I was cooped up here in the capital. Ah, I see. We're counting on you. Leave it to me. I've unlocked the controls, so it's all ready to be piloted. It's a highly maneuverable craft, so please be careful with it. Okay. Alright, all aboard. Oh, I see. Something over here, is there? No, okay. He's got a shop. Oh, that reminds me. Just in case, I brought some tools to help adjust your orbits. It's not much, but I also prepared a few other items and equipment. Really? That's awesome. My, how thoughtful. This will be so helpful. Thank you very much. There was no trouble at all. If you need anything else, let me know. Okay, so he sells orbits.
Make sure to prepare properly.
Just orbits. Oh, okay, I see. So, I'm not interested in the shields, really. I should go over Chloe's things really fast. Gladiator belt plus 30. Wow, okay, that's definitely getting an upgrade.
Alright, it's decided.
Damn.
What will it be?
Time for
What does he sell?
Which one are you going to pick?
General items, looks like. Work jumpsuits. Not really worth. Oh, the boots might be worth it. Who's Artsy Van? I'm not too worried about Artsy Van on these guys, other than Joshua. But everybody else, these boots would be great.
I pick you. I got it. Alright, it's decided. I got it.
Not Joshua. That should work. Maybe not Olivier either. Okay.
Take care.
Let me go over Chloe's equipment real fast since she's new. Or returning, rather. She needs your upgrades. Okay. I'm gonna give her a proxy puppet just in case she goes down, because she does have her limit break reses everybody, reses the party. So I don't want her to 90 CP before KO. I don't want her to, I don't want her to go down. Seal... Mute stat debuff. That'll be fine. Shira. Okay, so... what I was thinking was that Shira gets this. I suppose I could throw this on her too. Yeah, fuck it, why not? 60%. Now, in the old games, these stacked, so this gives CP 30 each action, which means each turn, or yeah, each turn they take. And then this would increase the CP gain as well, so 60% of 30. Be a little over 45 CP per turn, which is very good. It should make her permanently able to cast her haste, her party haste.
What will it be?
I hope so anyway. I hope that's how this
I
works.
can't decide.
What will it be?
I can't.
Make sure to
Now the other important thing is to go over the orbits, because they've not been in the party for a while. This must be nerfed. Okay, so in the old game,
What will it be?
these used to unlock by themselves, but I guess you gotta manually do it.
Which one are you going to pick?
There we go.
Make sure to prepare properly. Take it.
Now the important thing. Attack. I'm not too interested in her attack offense, but she's kind of a mixed caster and skill user, so these will be fine for now. Arts defense. This can be changed. Sleep blade will be fine. What I really want is her action up, speed up. Okay, Chloe, I want purely magic. If defense up is okay, but maybe able to do something a little bit better. I don't want her to lose. Here we go. Saint Latira, Petrify Breath, Air Strike. She doesn't lose any. She doesn't lose Earth Guard, so this will work fine. And do I have another action? Action 2? Yes, perfect.
What will it be?
Now, can I combine
I can't
orbits?
decide.
Take your time to choose.
I can. Okay, perfect. We need some of these. I'm gonna use my U materials, but I guess that's okay. I would like it on Shira mostly.
I pick you.
Not too worried about the others.
What will it be?
One more thing. She needs a cast. So I suppose I don't want this. This might be a little sus. She loses a lot without that. Maybe not then. She should be fine. Okay, let's save here. And begin. There isn't much time left until noon. Shall we board and start the engine? Yes. Okay. Peyton, I ask for your support. Understood. I've got the engines, you just focus on piloting this thing. Here we go, Shira. Yes. It's a difficult mission, but it's no different from what we usually do. Swift and steady now. I get to test drive Shira's build. The clock strikes noon.
It's starting. Let's go, Dorothy. We need a spot with a clear view.
Wait for me! I still need to set up the exposure cords!
Hey, what's going on here? Where have you been the last 3 days?
I've sniffed out a scoop. Biggest scoop in liberal news history.
The gate control system is in the Royal Guard room. Let's head up the south staircase.
Got it. Huh. Let's fly.
Okay. Where are we going? This way.
Whoa. No way! Intruders?
That is what every soldier says when they've been infiltrated. Can you blame them?
Here we go.
Hello, Alice. How have you been? You're just in time to see some ass whippings. Endgame builds are online.
Now it's my turn. I'll finish you all off right here. Prepare yourself.
I'm gonna use his fist. The fist. Wait, limit break. Why not?
Here we go.
Can I hit everyone? Yes. Slept yesterday, I missed it. Ah, no worries. Always get this catch up. I took sleep. First.
Finish them off.
Yes.
Already half dead.
Wide open.
Show my poor Joshua.
Let's go.
This is the end.
Farewell.
Oh man.
For your trouble. It's my turn.
Alrighty. Arrow Storm.
With grace.
You saw for this week or not? Oh yeah. Tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Yeah, tomorrow's Wednesday. Yes, we are definitely still on. I'm quite excited to try out a Trinity trigger.
Wind.
Arrow Storm.
You're mine.
There we go.
This is the end.
Oh shit, it's in.
I won't let you.
Raring to go.
Come on.
I'll support you. Fantasy Grenades. There. Arrow blast.
Left be the light.
Split.
It's definitely a lot of deaths. First.
Finish them off.
Yes.
Perfect. And the last guy's fucking paralyzed. So. Nice. Alright, Olivia, it's time for some heals.
With grace.
You all right?
Thanks.
That was close.
Leave it to me.
Clicker. Make an announcement change. Gotcha.
Stand up.
It should be fun. I'm actually quite looking forward to it. Oh, he's got a res.
It's my turn.
What did he use this?
With love and sincerity.
Thanks.
Let's wrap this up, Joshua.
Perfect move.
Clicker.
I got this.
Okay, Zed's got zero cast. I flubbed that very hard. Oops.
Here we go.
Stands and gets another turn. Had to use this first. There we go. Okay. Spam Shadow Spirit him. he wouldn't rage. As long as he's not resing, I should be okay.
Payback time! I'll be your opponent.
He's just unnaturally tanky for no reason. With the white Gehenna.
I'll end you! Payback time! You're mine!
Is he actually gonna survive this? I don't want Joshua to die.
Let's begin. I'll back you up.
End him.
I'll show you the essence of beauty.
The Matt Mercer special.
Reverberate! Howling bullet!
Nice. Nice. Nice for months of XP.
All right, one down. Color me oh so disappointed.
I'm going to operate the gate controls now. Hold off any enemies that show up.
Leave it to me. They don't call me immovable for nothing. I won't let a single one get through. And when the gates of heaven shall open for you, you'll know you've reached the final act.
What the? That's weird. I thought we were supposed to be on lockdown.
Time tomorrow. I was thinking,
No way!
shoot for 8.
Impossible!
8 p.m. Give or take.
No! This can't be happening! Why are the gates opening?
Captain, what should we do? At this rate, the enemy will breach the
Sounds
castle.
good. Excellent.
First platoon, stay here. The rest of you, head to the foyer immediately. Do not let the enemy enter.
Yes, ma'am.
We're in the same time. We should be. EST? East Coast.
What a disgrace. No matter the cost, I must drive them back before the Colonel returns.
Captain!
It's the Special Ops frigate!
Damn it! That was their plan?
Here comes the girls.
Estelle Bright? And Princess Claudia?
We meet again, Captain Amalthea.
We'll have you free my grandmother.
Don't you dare underestimate me!
Oh boy. The boss fight.
Damn you and your petty tricks!
Queen Bee shot.
You all this instant!
Right back at you!
We'll push our way through you.
Everyone, let's go!
Okay, this
This is dangerous.
we're gonna see how this goes. So move debuff for sure is the Weiss Aura.
Guide us.
You're at the same okay, perfect, yeah. At 8 p.m. tomorrow. Okay, where's her haste? Where's the haste?
Let's remain prudent.
It's the Heaven's Kiss? It is the Heaven's Kiss, yes, okay. 90 perks, okay.
Time to whip things up.
Let's go!
Essentially, what this means.
Time to get bold.
I don't have clock up X. That's what I was missing. Okay. I need to see if Chloe has clock up EX. If she does, then I think this is the cheese strat. A very strong cheese strat. Oh, here it is. Yes, here we go.
Boosting! Thanks.
Good delay. Heaven's Kiss.
Oh, can't focus.
counterattack's still gonna hurt, but that's fine. Lock up EX. So the main limiter is gonna be mana.
Thanks.
I'm also missing a party member, so it's not super optimal, but it's funny. It's funny to me.
Oh, can't focus.
Now I'm mad. Full power.
See, this would be perfect with Joshua because Joshua actually does damage. Estelle doesn't do a whole lot of damage.
Here we go.
Thanks. Here I come.
Yeah, okay, so it kind of works. It's really missing that fourth party member to make it work. Okay. Oh, we'll fight her normally then, I suppose.
Wind.
That's funny to your 4 rounds of turns though.
Feeling good.
Feeling good.
Stand back! I'll end you!
Payback time. Here we there.
This one's on me.
I'm on fire.
Nice, all the buffs up her. We're very good.
I'll make it hurt.
For the heaven's kiss.
Time to whip things up. Go, Estelle.
Let's do this.
Here
The
goes.
morale up is also going to be very helpful as well. Another clock up EX.
Thanks. I'm on a roll. Time to get some. I'll make it hurt.
So 99 to Nice is a 9. It costs 9, and on the turn she goes up to 54. Okay. So she gets like almost 50 CP back per turn. Which all things considered is actually a lot. It's a lot of limit break to generate. I think Chloe's gonna have to start doing some of this.
Glitter of the Septium.
Burn. Boosting. Yeah. Princess.
Okay, that guy's gonna get healed back, so I don't want him to have that. And limit break to steal?
Let's go. Time to end this.
First.
Let's beat him down.
Okay. Hand it over.
Drain bullet.
Drain bullet.
Don't enrage.
Leave it to me.
Nice. Okay, perfect.
I'll make it hurt.
Is impede. No. No steal though, which is a shame. Okay, let's keep sure at a little bit of a distance here. There we go. Crit heal.
You're a lifesaver.
Perfect. There's the enrage. Stay on the wall because he's almost dead. Estelle is tanky as fuck.
Of the goddess. Wind.
All that time I spent feeding her the stat ups is paid off now. At the end game. Okay, those guys are fucking dead. Shira makes her a very strong mage.
Feeling good.
Very good. Wheel of
One
Fortune.
step further. For the Colonel.
Is that
That's
enrage?
some grit she's got.
Yes, but we'll
Not
not be
enrage. Oh, she's casting. Okay. Shut her ass up, Estelle.
Gotcha! How about this?
This one's on me!
Finish it, Jack!
Actually have Hellgate. This is S damage. Is that S damage? No, it's A plus damage. Right?
Wind! How's this?
That must be a terrible thing she's casting if she's just gonna spam it. Don't impede. No. But Estelle does.
Yeah! Thanks! All right.
Oh, but she's got no fucking. Oh well. Morale.
Time to strike!
Here I come!
Heaven's kiss. Haste.
Time to whip things up!
Reset the rounds. Cast nope. Yep. Casted the nope. Oh, but Estelle. Come on, Estelle.
It's trying to do something.
Here we go!
Chloe doesn't have any fucking. Okay, let's try this one more time. Lock up X. EX.
Yeah! Boosting! Thanks! Here I come!
Okay. Heaven's kiss.
Time to whip things up!
Okay, that's the haste.
I'm not done yet! I'm on fire! Here goes!
One more go around. Clock up EX. I don't want her to cast. She's targeting something and I don't want her to get it off.
Here
Okay.
I come!
Heaven's kiss.
Oh, can't focus.
Okay, Estelle. Now you can cast nope.
Gotcha! How about this?
There we go. And cancel.
Now, Chloe!
Out of mana. Okay. That's the other downside to this build is the mana. Once the mana runs out, that's it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clock up oh, maybe not.
Time to get going.
This is just Chaos Brander.
Glitter of the Septium.
Yeah!
Miss.
Here goes.
Shadow Spear.
Glitter of the Septium.
There's the Enrage. I was waiting for that to happen.
I'll make it hurt.
Easy shot.
Take that!
Yeah!
Luckily she's targeting Estelle. Estelle tanky's all fuck.
I'm not done yet!
Nice. Self buff.
How's this?
She really wants to get that off, doesn't she? Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to save Estelle. Oh well. Estelle's tanky, so. Oh, this has impede. Never mind.
I'll make it hurt.
Bye.
Bad boys get punished. Say? Hand it over. Drain bullet.
Let's keep it up! Full power!
Really use the morale. There we go.
Everyone, let's go! Now, Chloe!
Oh, we got crits on crits coming up. Nice.
Nothing. How's this?
How's this?
Oh, that's not targeted. That's an error. Oh, okay, I see. So doesn't have much left. But we have a burst.
Yes!
Wasn't much healing for it. Yeah, the drain bullet doesn't do a whole lot.
Here I
All it
come.
does is delay the inevitable. All right, sure. Show her
I'll
what
make
for.
it hurt.
Still shit tons of damage. She can't escape it.
Arcana of the goddess. Ha!
I'm not done yet! Let's
Enter. And that's that.
Impossible.
Captain Abalthea has finally been defeated. Oh, nice. It's still level up. Nice boots.
That's one scary lady. Intense doesn't feel intense enough. Who is she exactly?
She's Colonel Richard's adjutant. A real sly fox, if you ask me.
Yeah, I can see that. All right then, to the Royal Keep.
Yes, let's hurry.
Oh, there's a healing thing inside the ship. Okay, can I get back in?
This is calming.
Oh, that's right. Heavenly Insight. Ooh, Heavenly Insight 1. That's 3. What is that? Arts range 5 meters. I wonder if that makes the little AoEs really big. I don't really have a place to put it though on anybody. Oh well. I'll just hold on to it. There they are. This way. There's more. How irritating. Did they not just see us whip the ass of their boss? Come on.
You're a lifesaver. Let's go.
She still doesn't have a lot, but... I suppose I should actually put that thing on a still. Because I'm curious if it makes a circular AoEs the bigger circle, or if it's just the max range. But I guess max range would make sense either, because the arenas are so small, so it must be. Oh, we'll see next fight. Ariel. Oh sure, it might go down. She took a lot of damage in that hit. God damn it. They did go all in on her build. Oh man.
Cutting here, I come.
The Septium.
Wish I was those enemies so bad. Why wouldn't you get to get whipped by Whip Mommy just once? Well, here, you can watch this before you get sprayed.
Do as I say.
I never stood a chance. Unfortunately, I think Shear's about to move around. It was a little too early to commit to that build. There's the salary though, exactly. He's very happy that Shear is back with the party.
There's an opening. I'm not done yet.
And so am I.
Now I'm mad.
Okay.
Everyone, let's go.
Eat this!
Thanks.
Nice.
My turn.
Steal this off this dude. Who's got the heal? What's him? Those lucky bastards. I'm trying very hard not to let Shear go down.
You can count on me.
Keep attacking still, yes. Hey, Chloe, you're up.
We go together.
Come on.
Stand back!
Nice. Dog Sun? Nice. Perfect.
Time to get serious. I'll take you all down.
With the Arrow Storm.
Win!
bad part about this... no, I think I just fucked up. Shit. I didn't have an opportunity to get Shira a weapon, but I think maybe I just skipped over it and the other guy shot back at the... Shit, so I'm just an idiot. You say Shira's weapon does no damage. Even for a limit break. Shira go down as a dirty joke, but our friends and saying does me. Shit. I guess I can't say that anymore either. Don't say Shira going down. Don't say Shira going down. Don't say Shira going down.
You got guts.
Got guts.
I'll make it hurt.
Heaven's kiss.
Oh, can't focus. Let's keep it up. Let's speed it up.
Okay. He is enraged, this one is not. I forgot that guy even existed. Zero cast. Burst.
Let's go! Okay!
Enrage. Yeah, this isn't a bag though. This is ours. Wow, it actually proc sleep. It's the first time anything has gotten slept in this game. Alright. And dead.
That should do
Another
it.
fight, okay.
That's not enough to stop us.
Well, Shira and Chloe need weapons.
What will it be?
Time for some
Make sure to prepare
time
properly.
for some shopping.
He doesn't sell them, does
Which
he?
one are you going to pick?
Son of a bitch. Okay. Hmm.
Make sure to prepare properly. Take care.
Well, we can use this at least.
That's the stuff.
Feels like it adjusts the build a little bit. Okay, she needs... Does he sell bracer
Make
jackets?
sure to prepare properly. Make sure to prepare
Time for
properly.
some shopping.
Which one are you going to pick?
Work jumpsuits. Nah, that's no good.
What will it be? Take care.
A shame. Okay. Then I will check the orbits. So this isn't helping her at all. Gradually recover EP. Napalm blow. Stonehammer, Earth Guard. Emerald Shield gives clock up EX. It's the arts range I was looking at earlier. Saints, break, defense. No, not really interested in that. Napalm blow. Let's get his defense up, which is great. I think I prefer my Shira as a mage versus a skills user, so I'm gonna try and get these rounds. %, evade. Sweet. 93 is perfect. She is like no HP. These will take them clothes off of Shira. Not herself. For protection, no other reason. So he says. You say that with a straight face, Salamanders. TP up. speed. Silver shield. Heat haze. Decreased. Okay, this is the. Yeah, this is for her. Okay. She's gonna have no HP. She shouldn't be targeted all that much. HP 3. I3, HP 2. 11, HP 3. Okay, let's try this build a bit.
This feels great.
I think I got a costume for sure, didn't I? Let's see. I didn't mean to shake her like that. I love this outfit. Let's go ahead and save. Do not shake your local Shiras. They're here. You're not getting through. We say that, but we will. Don't get in our way, or else. Magical physics are the way. Local Shiras.
You got guts. Time to whip things up.
Let's keep it up. Let's speed it up.
Well,
Let's
okay.
do this.
Here goes. We go together.
Where is EX? Wait. Oh, okay. Speed up, speed up, speed up. Clock up. There we go. Use the combo a little bit.
Here I come. Time to whip things up.
I just realized the buff is called Quick, not Haste. Strange change.
We go together.
Okay, Chloe needs to like get some buffs up on us. Earth Guard.
Healing. Thanks. The glitter of the Septium.
There. I'm on fire. Ha!
Earth Guard, perfect.
My turn.
Speed
take 'em
down.
all.
Okay. This should do perfectly fine.
There.
Wide open. Eat this.
Leave it to me.
Aerostorm. She with the huge casts. I'm talking about her magic.
Here goes.
Okay. Lock up EX.
Yeah.
Boosting. Thanks. Win.
Say this whip.
Wide open.
Oh, that counter. Luckily she had Earth Guard. Okay. Can I get everybody? Yes.
Looks like you need a spanking.
Boing boing. Spanking.
Take that and that and that and that. And that. Stunned.
Let's end this.
Nice. Dogs are down. Oh, I thought the dogs are down.
This is going to hurt.
Another huge zero cast. Sure stole
Here I
all of
come.
those.
I'll take you all down.
Perfect, perfect.
Win.
Oh, she's almost got it. This is good. She's gonna double limit break.
It flinched.
Another one.
Here I come.
Again. Whip them.
Do as I say. Take that and that and that and that. And that.
Absolutely dominated.
Too slow. How's this? Time to strike.
Leave it to me. We go together.
Okay. You can heal. Just to be sure.
All right. How's this?
There we go.
This one's on me.
I'm gonna hold my
Here
bursts.
I come.
Is that... I don't know if there's another fight after this or not.
I'll make it hurt.
Just in case.
Arcana of the goddess.
Ah, the enrage.
Eat this!
Healing. Thanks.
Oh, he got the fucking paralyze off. Oh well.
This is tough.
Once more.
Arcana of
Ah,
the
he's gonna get the
goddess.
heal off. Kill him still.
Here goes.
And that's that.
Ugh, what an annoying
Okay,
bunch.
I'm back and healed.
Now, let's move on.
This feels great.
Just saying they start the boss fight first. Alright.
Traitors! How dare you waltz in here? You do realize you're defying me, the new king of liberal.
And here I thought the joke was that haircut. You're not king yet, are you?
So, finally, somebody fucking call him on his stupid hair.
What?
Duke Dunin, I presume. We're with the Bracer Guild.
Times, okay.
On Princess Claudia's request, we've come to rescue Her Majesty. Please, kindly step aside.
Once we're done with the castle, we'll see if there's any cutscenes and then call it.
Claudia? That little brat. Always meddling in my affairs.
Uncle Dunin, please stop all this. Can't you see that Colonel Richard has been using you?
What are you saying? Claudia? What happened to your hair? And what are you wearing?
He only just noticed. No wonder he didn't recognize her back in Ruan.
He seems rather oblivious.
Perhaps I should have just told him.
How dare you deceive me? This is exactly why women are not to be trusted.
Wow, Dunin.
They're sneaky, petty, and make a fuss over every little thing.
My goodness.
I'll never hand the crown over to such a worthless little creature.
Jesus. He said that to these three too, after they just obliterated like all of his cards. Shira's mad, Estelle's mad. Chloe's just embarrassed. She's even related to this chuckle fuck.
Well, Your Grace, that may have been unwise.
I believe you should apologize.
Even the guards are like, oh man. We just say all that shit so brazenly.
Worthless creatures, huh?
I'm actually a little impressed. Making such a bold statement in this day and age.
I think it's dangerous when Estelle and Shira are smiling like that.
I'm sorry, Uncle. I don't think I can defend you on this one.
Even Chloe's smiling like that. This is the most dangerous thing that you'll ever. This is moments before your impending death. You see these three smiling at you like this.
I can take them all.
I'll wreck you!
Yeah!
on the
It just
royal
runs
next in
around.
line.
You hear that? What do we do?
I think.
He may be my uncle, but if he stands in our way, we have no choice.
I don't
We'll
recall.
still have to go easy on him
But
a
I
little.
think if you don't attack dude in here, you get extra BP. It doesn't matter now because I have all the BP to get I got all the prizes from the guild. Okay, I want to
Time to get bold.
some of this.
Thanks. Here I come.
No Heaven's Kiss. Oh well. Seal. No steel though.
I'll take you all down. Arcana of the goddess.
Healing! You're a lifesaver. Healing! Thanks!
You're mine!
Speed down.
Burn!
That's a cool spell.
I'm on fire!
Okay, Stell should be able to morale next turn. Poison.
Don't underestimate me!
Now's my chance! I go all out! We go together! Yeah! Boosting! You're a lifesaver.
Okay. Morale. I need to use this. And then morale.
Let's do this! Finish it, Shara!
Okay. Heaven's Kiss.
Oh, can't focus. Go, Estelle.
Get crushed!
Fuck him. Beat his ass. A little bit. Just a little bit.
Wide open!
Here goes! We go together!
No, I want to use Clock Up.
Yeah! Boosting!
Keep this train rolling.
Thanks.
Clock Up EX.
Here I come.
Heaven's Kiss.
Oh,
What?
can't focus.
All right. I can take them all! Here we go!
Okay, so
We go together!
still a few more turns of infinite turns.
Here I come.
Oh, maybe not anymore.
I'll take you all down.
Let's remain prudent.
Arcana of the goddess.
There! All right. Time to end this! Ha! 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 Ta! Yeah! Throw the defense! There!
Wide open!
Getting there.
Eat this!
Wind. Feeling good.
Nice. Wheel of Fortune.
I'll give you a reward!
Courage.
Leave it to me! We go
Okay, we need some heals going on.
The glitter of the Septium.
Time to get serious.
Heaven's Kiss.
Time to whip things up.
May your wands prevail!
Nice and arts boost.
You're a lifesaver. Let's go!
For the morale.
Let's do this!
This could suck a little bit. Who's he gonna attack? Okay, if he attacks Estelle, it's fine. I'm worried about Shira and Chloe though. Chloe is a proxy puppet, which will save her once. Oh, wait. Oh my god.
Okay. That was dangerous.
Okay.
It's tough. Looks like you need a spanking. Take that and that and that and that and that.
Nice.
Let's end this! Okay.
Sorry, dude. Not sorry.
Feeling good. You got it, princess.
Let's go ahead and cap everyone up.
Light, heal these
Everyone off, rather. It's a prayer.
Thanks.
Okay.
Get close.
Now I'm mad. Full power. How's this?
Can I hit just these two? Oh, I can. Nice. Here we go.
Ready? Eat this. There.
Wide open.
I forgot her. Limit Break is a shield too, which is perfect.
You're mine.
Should solidify victory.
Payback time.
Here I come.
So close to dying. It's such a shame that he stole everything. I steal it back. Technically, I can steal it back by whipping them.
Looks like you need a spanking.
Spank them. Spank these bad boys. Alright. Single targets now.
Glitter of the Septium.
It's not my fault.
Coward.
It's your fault.
All right. How's this?
He would enrage. Speed us up.
Here we go.
Arcana of the gods.
Here goes. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so you do get bonus BP if you leave Duke Doonan.
Well, now that's all wrapped up. Next up, the Duke.
Would you like to taste the sting of a whip wielded by a woman?
Oh goodness. Oh no.
Stay back. Stay away.
Maybe that's enough.
In that case, I'll just have to use Her Majesty as a shield. Here goes nothing.
Well. Much for him.
Yikes! Our scare tactics might have been overkill.
But he was getting in the way, so maybe this will be just the medicine he needs.
Yes. Such an unfortunate accident. And yet, I don't think we can leave my uncle here like this.
Your Grace.
Philip!
Miss Estelle and Princess Claudia, I am so terribly sorry for all the trouble my master has caused you. The fault lies entirely with me for my failure to raise him properly.
Oh, Philip.
I beg of you, please, punish me in his stead.
Oh. Don't say that to Shira.
Wait a second!
Philip, please raise your head. We're only here to help my grandmother, Her Majesty the Queen. We never intended to harm Uncle Doonan. Please take him to my room and tend to his wounds.
Your Highness.
His wounds aren't that bad. He just bumped his head and passed out. He'll be fine.
Everyone, thank you very much. I will not forget your kindness.
He kinda did it to himself. But I feel better.
Well, lesson learned, I guess. He got what he deserved for underestimating women.
Let's hurry. Grandmother's room is right there.
Oops, wrong way. Okay, it's definitely safe. To the queen. Yoinks, and away.
Grandmother, are you all right?
We're here to rescue you, Your Majesty.
Claudia and Estelle.
So, you finally arrived.
No.
I was getting tired of waiting.
Lieutenant Lawrence, what are you doing here?
It's time to fight the queen.
It is my duty to guard Her Majesty the Queen.
Is the mastermind the entire time.
So, my presence here is hardly that surprising.
Stop messing around. I don't care how strong you are. It's 3 against 1.
This guy, he looks pretty strong. Who is he?
He's the leader of the Intelligence Division's Special Ops, 2nd Lieutenant Lawrence Belgar.
The second survivor.
He used to be a Jaeger, but was recruited by the Colonel.
Oh, it looks like you've done your research. I would expect nothing less from the daughter of Cassius Bright, the S-rank bracer.
How does he know his rank? That information isn't public.
I think they mentioned there are only 4 S-rank bracers across the entire continent. I think it was the last stream. I might have been streaming before though.
Just who exactly is this guy?
I know about you, too. Bracer Rank C, the Silver Streak, Sherazard Harvey. It looks like you're on track to make B rank soon.
Please, just give me back my grandmother. If you're merely hired by the Colonel, then there's no reason to keep fighting.
There are forces in this world that your eyes cannot see. Staring only at the quartz board tells you nothing of how the gears turn.
What?
Take heed, Princess Claudia. A nation is like a vast, intricate orbit. The gear, organizations, and institutions draw power from quartz, the people, and land is the frame that surrounds it. If you can't even understand that, then you lack what it takes to be queen.
An interesting metaphor. Perhaps there is truth in what you say. Although I didn't expect a lecture on statecraft from you, of all people.
My apologies. Such words are hardly needed for Your Majesty.
I'm not sure I understand what that was, but does that mean you're not going to let the Queen go?
What if that was the case?
Simple. We'll just have to take her back by force.
He's a philosopher too.
That's right. We've come too far to turn back
We expected
now.
the PMC mercenary.
I do not sense hostility from you, but if it means saving my grandmother, then I have no choice but to fight you.
Very well. In that case, let me show you what I am truly capable of.
What?
Oh shit, the helmet's off. Oh
Silver
no,
hair?
he's hot.
No, it's more of an ash blonde. Judging from his looks, he's probably from the north.
You're right. I am from the north. Not far from here at all.
What?
Female or not, I won't be holding back. Ready?
He's so cool. Uh-oh.
Come. The powerless have no say in the path
shit.
of fate.
He's testing
Look at his
us,
HP.
and we shall show him our conviction.
Yeah, if you want to get in our way,
Okay.
then shove off.
We need buffs. We need buffs now.
Thanks. Here I come. Time to whip things up.
Let's
I hope we're good to go.
So this is what he looks like.
Yeah, he's got fucking shadow clones, of course. I forgot about that.
But a former Jaeger, huh? Just how much does...
Don't dwell. Lose your focus, and your life will soon follow.
You sure love to talk. His intensity. It's sending shivers down my spine.
Bring it on. That's not enough to make me flinch.
Okay, still tank. This is my favorite Trill song. It's called Silver Will. Demon Flames. Whoa. He's got Esprit.
Demon Flames!
Still.
Here I come.
Even with the resist, he did 2,500 damage. Okay. Got no fucking. No CP just yet. Can't get the combo going.
The glitter of the Septium.
The power of Septium.
Wind! How's this?
Shit, I can't let him cast that MP.
Gotcha! How about this? I'm on fire!
Zero storm.
Healing! You're a lifesaver.
Oh, damn.
You got guts.
I'm in skis.
Oh, can't focus. Let's keep it up! Full power! How's this? Everyone, let's go!
Here goes.
So what I think, I'm scared of his enrage. That's the main thing. Okay, that's the real one. That's his clone. Can I be confused?
I'm not done yet!
The clone can be confused. Okay, that helps a bit. With guard EX.
Here goes.
So I'm gonna go offensive until he's about half HP. That's when his enrage will hit.
Time to get bold.
The glitter of the Septium.
And then I'm gonna try the turn combo on him.
Time to get bold.
Nice.
Burn! I'm on fire!
The power of Septium.
If he turns on Shira or Chloe, they are fucking dead. He does way too much damage. That smells really cool. Okay. First.
Everyone, let's go! Okay!
Nice, nice.
Here I come!
He's not quite at.
I'll make it hurt! This is gonna sting!
This is one of the more.
You're a lifesaver!
It's one of the more difficult fights in the game. This is probably the, if not the most, the second most difficult fight in the game. And the clone's almost dead. Okay, so So Lawrence is almost half, not quite. Buff up again. Play it safe. Next turn I need to get Chloe up to max MP. Okay, that's a clone down.
He's a monster.
If only Joshua was here.
That boy
I was just thinking about
is
it.
more fragile than you
I
think.
wish Joshua was here.
What the? Who do you think you are? You don't know anything about Joshua.
Estelle.
A point well made. My apologies.
Could he be poisoned?
Arcana of the goddess. Ha!
Okay, retard up. Perfect. That's the enrage. Shit. He's got a crit. Estelle, you need to steal it. He's not even half HP, he already enraged. Okay. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, that's a stagger, it's good. Oh, but there's a limit break! Please only hit Estelle. Okay, we're okay. You stole his crit back. Oh my god, okay.
I'll make it hurt.
Okay, we can get the combo going now.
Oh, can't focus. Go, Estelle.
Time to strike. Now, Chloe.
Block up EX.
Thanks.
This sucks because he has that crit. That crit scares me.
Here I come.
So...
I'll make it hurt.
Oh my god, it's kiss. Shit. I can steal. No, it's seal. Never mind. Well, when in doubt, you just, you spread the fuck out. I don't know if I can impede him. Or, sorry, if I can move us an anti-cept. I can try it. Okay. Oh boy. Oh my god! Okay, we're good.
Thanks. Here I come.
Okay, Chloe is in dire need of, mana.
I'll make it hurt. Oh, can't focus.
Let's keep it up. Let's speed it up.
Ooh, impact.
Here we go.
Okay, Chloe, time to eat some food. Or take one of these. Or all.
I'm not done yet.
Ah, he's got another enrage!
The power of Septia.
Oh, the cast.
It's no use.
Luckily, Grail Locket. Very nice to have. That's why you do side quests in this game.
I'm not done yet.
Can disable buffs. Zero storm.
Healing. You're a lifesaver. Here goes. This is going to hurt.
Mysora, this will be perfect. I'm still.
Vice. You're a lifesaver.
Go forth.
Oh.
My turn. Time to strike.
Here's payback. You got guts.
Okay. Alright.
I'll make it hurt. Time to whip things up. Go, Estelle.
Okay, Chloe, it's time to definitely heal. Is this a single target big heal? Not really, okay. First. He's just so fucking tanky.
Oh.
And fast.
You're rather persistent.
I'm starting
Heal.
to feel like we might win.
Nice.
Please hold on tight.
Another fucking enrage.
We won't fall here.
God damn it. It's got no bonuses. Okay, it's time for food. Special ice cream. That sword guy is gonna kill you. He's fucking trying, dude. Like I said, this is, if not the most annoying or most difficult fight, is like the second. It's like neck and neck. It's very easy to get. He's like a difficulty spike. You remember fighting Majima in Yakuza 7? In the middle of the game? He's a very big difficulty spike. Okay. You have a 0 cast, which is perfect. We'll keep it on the offensive. So long as he's focusing Estelle, which is, he's been doing nothing but targeting Estelle, which is perfect.
Here I come.
And we're completely fine. 'Cause I can upkeep her. Vince Kiss.
Can't focus. Now I'm mad.
It's one of those fights where you really gotta abuse the mechanics when you can.
Here we go. Freeze, princess.
I can't even imagine fighting this guy at nightmare difficulty.
The power of Septium.
Oh, Jesus.
It's no use.
Oh, fuck me. Rail rocket. Another enrage. Just permanent rage. We're almost there.
I'm on fire.
The power of Septium.
He's got so much speed. He's got a self-heal. Okay, it's only 10k. That's not terrible. Oh, no. Yo, bonus. Okay, shit, Shira's not gonna have enough for a Heaven's Kiss. For third.
The power of Septium.
He's just gonna
It's
fucking.
no use.
Oh my god. Okay, Grail lock it. Grail lock it. He's gonna fucking crit. Steal the stealth. Nice. Okay, he's stunned. He's getting staggered. So
Here I come.
we should be good. Evan's Kiss.
Oh, can't focus. Go, Estelle.
Well, gonna play it safe.
Let's go. Now, Chloe.
Okay. You should be good.
Glitter of the Septium.
No! He turned on Chloe? Oh my god, okay, he didn't kill her. That's good.
You'll pay for that.
My god. That actually scared me. I thought I died for a second. God damn.
Not bad, but not good enough.
Freeze.
dead? Lawrence down?
I see.
Lawrence down.
You truly are good.
God damn. Slow Revolution, defeat Lawrence. Nice. Perfect. Estelle's almost fucking dead. Maybe increased by 3. Interesting. I wonder if this one, I wonder, since that's a story fight, I wonder if you can lose that fight and the story will continue. Not sure. And the BPs are beating him.
I never thought you were this strong.
You were holding back in the tournament, weren't you? You were nothing like this back there.
To think we actually managed to defeat this monster.
I can't believe it.
Estelle Bright, I should have never underestimated you. Perhaps one day, you truly will grow as strong as your father.
What?
But you're definitely not there yet.
Uh-oh. Hit her with the braver.
Claudia! Estelle!
Your Majesty, please do not move any further. Their injuries aren't fatal.
No. Those eyes, they possess such a deep color. Still so young, and yet you seem to have endured so much.
Queen, you have no right to pity me. You who know the name Hamel.
Hamel.
Now then, the time has come. According to your wishes, I shall return Her Majesty to you.
What?
If you wish to stop the Colonel, you'd best hurry underground. You're likely too late, but you may be able to prevent any more needless damage.
Underground? Don't tell me he went down from that place.
I knew that you would understand the situation, Your Majesty. Guide them well. Farewell.
And there he goes.
What?
Is he serious?
He's gone. Did he jump into the lake or something?
Even if he did, the surface of the water looks awfully calm. Again, who was that man?
Grandmother, are you hurt?
I'm fine, Claudia. He didn't harm me in any way. More importantly...
Estelle!
Joshua? Oh, thank goodness you're okay.
I'm glad you're safe too. Colonel Richard or Lieutenant Lawrence aren't anywhere in the castle, so I was worried about you.
That weirdo with the red helmet was here just a minute ago.
What?
He leapt right over the railing and escaped. That man's truly a monster.
So that's what happened. Thank goodness. I'm so glad you're all okay.
Joshua.
Your Majesty, I am so very grateful to see that you are safe.
Lieutenant Schwartz, how glad I am to see you again. And to each and every one of you, I cannot express my gratitude enough.
Your Majesty, your generous words are more than honor enough.
We're just glad to be of help. But it looks like things aren't over yet.
The special ops in the castle have been suppressed, but we've received more troubling news. Army units from across the kingdom are reportedly heading for the capital. It seems they're all being controlled by the intelligence division.
Is that so?
I apologize, but we don't have time. Please, you must escape by frigate immediately.
No, that isn't an option. Rather, things have taken a very serious turn. Colonel Richard must be stopped, no matter what.
What do you mean?
After speaking with the Colonel last night, I believe I finally understand his true objective.
This is one of the loose ends. It's not explained.
It seems he's trying to obtain the Oriole.
You know, I first saw that word back when I first played this game, or the original. I misread Oriole. I thought she said something completely different.
The Oriole? That sounds familiar.
It's one of the Septarians, said to have been granted by the goddess to the ancients.
Exposition dump.
Among them, the Oriole is the legendary artifact with the power to control all things.
Oh, Professor Alba mentioned it before. But isn't that just a fairy tale told by the church?
Whatever could that have been?
For real?
Because there was no voice acting in the original. There was just text. The only voice acting was in combat with like sound effects. But like she says that, and I'm like, the areola. What the hell kind of artifact name is the areola?
So it does exist then. And it's hiding somewhere in the Kingdom of Liberal?
There's an old legend passed down through the royal family.
Yeah, whip me too much,
The
exactly.
Oriole, one day, shall become a calamity which binds the souls of humanity to purgatory.
Oh man.
To live as humans, we sealed it away in the depths of the dark shadows.
Binding the souls of humanity to purgatory? Well, that's very unsettling.
These words were passed down through generations as a warning to each ruler. I believe that this object, the Oriole, was sealed away by our founding monarch due to the danger it posed. Coupled with the immense orbital reaction recently observed beneath the capital. If one thinks of these two together...
The Oriole is sealed underground below the capital. That's the only logical conclusion.
Indeed, the Colonel must have reached the same conclusion. What the Oriole is, even our legends don't say for sure. But if it were to be awakened, I fear it would bring about catastrophe. Perhaps something on the scale of the ancient Great Collapse, or something far worse.
Aha, world-ending threat, right at the finale of the game.
No, this is a situation.
Your Majesty, Lieutenant Lawrence told us to go underground, but what did he mean by that?
What did he mean by this?
In Gransel Castle, there is a room. A place that has been forbidden to enter since ancient times, though nothing of merit is said to be kept there.
Are you referring to the treasury?
Oh boy, the stakes have been raised ever higher.
There's no mistake about it. Someone's definitely been in and out of here recently.
That's not all. There are traces of something heavy being brought inside.
They were likely using a spare key to carry out their plans. It seems we must investigate.
Queen Alicia took out a key.
An elevator? In a place like this? There shouldn't be anything like that here.
So the Colonel must have had this constructed here of all places. That means this elevator leads to where the Oriole is.
Yes. Perhaps this was in fact the true purpose behind his coup. Constructing something like this would have been impossible without first seizing the castle.
No way.
It's quite possible. In any nation, the areas controlled by royal authority are tightly guarded. To breach that, one would have to resort to pretty drastic measures.
Either way, this seems like the best way for us to get underground. Let's try activating it.
What's wrong, Joshua?
This. It's locked with an orbital mechanism. We need a special quartz-based key to make it work.
What?
And after coming all this way,
We'll just have to put the squeeze on those special ops soldiers until they squeal. There must be a key somewhere.
Yes, that seems to be our only course of action.
No need for that.
Huh?
Professor Russell.
No way.
Oh my, Professor Russell?
At your service, Your Majesty. It has been quite a while. Good to see you both as well, Estelle and Joshua.
Well, hold on a second. Why are you here, Professor? Weren't you on the run from the Intelligence Division?
And if you're here, that must mean...
Grandpa! Where'd you go?
Our limit break battery is returned.
Hey, kid, quit dashing off around here, will ya?
Yes. And our limit break master.
Man, both you and that old geezer don't know how to sit still.
but Mr. Agate...
Tita?
I knew it.
Estelle, Joshua!
Whoa! Tita!
I'm so happy to see you again. When I asked at the guild, they said you were fighting in the castle. I'm so glad you're safe.
Tita!
Thank you. Sounds like we gave you quite a scare. And Agate, I'm glad to see you're safe as well. But what are you doing in the capital?
Well, we just happened to find a freighter headed for the capital. Figured it might be a good chance to slip in, but what do we find? Chaos everywhere. After hearing the situation from Elnan, we came straight here. Oh, I've got something from him for you.
DP! Luckily we already maxed that out, so...
Is this really okay? We haven't reported anything yet.
Seems the Royal Guard's messenger filled him in on most of it.
Big thing was the money.
Anyway, what's the deal here? Why is everyone just standing around? I thought I'd be mowing down special ops soldiers. Huh? You're...
It's been a while, Agate. Thank you again for your help at the lighthouse.
Chloe, right? The hell's a student like you doing in a place like this?
I see my granddaughter has been in your care. Please, allow me to extend my gratitude.
Don't mention it. All just part of the job. So, Granny, you somehow connected to the castle or what?
He said, so brazenly, to the leader of the Liberal Kingdom.
You insolent fool. Do you realize who you're talking to? This is Her Majesty Queen Alicia, Sovereign of Liberal.
Huh? Now that you mention it, I thought I'd seen her somewhere before.
My. Still as rough around the edges as ever, I see.
What'd you say?
She's the queen? Then, does that mean this lady is?
She's Queen Alicia's granddaughter, Her Highness Princess Claudia, but we all just call her Chloe.
Chloe, this is Professor Russell's granddaughter, Tita. She's like our little sister.
I see. It's nice to meet you, Tita. I would be so happy if you'd call me Chloe. Okay. Miss Chloe?
Oh my, aren't you a cutie? I'm Scherazard, Estelle and Joshua's mentor.
Mentor.
You can call me Shara.
Yes, Miss Shara.
And please, feel free to call me Olivier.
You! Zip it!
Anyway, you seem to be having trouble with this elevator. What exactly seems to be the problem?
Well, actually...
Joshua explained Colonel Richard's intentions in the matter of the Aureole, not Areola.
Hey, hang on a minute. This has to be some kind of joke, right?
I can't believe something like that is buried down here.
It's just as I feared. If we use this elevator, we should be able to reach that place, correct?
To give it to be as silly, does do some weird stuff going there. That's true.
Yes, but it's locked with a special key.
Maybe not be a bright sibling.
It looks like we need a quartz-based one.
Oh, it's one of those, eh? Let me take a look at it. This is a variation of the card key system I developed. You have to insert a card with an identical quartz circuit to get it to unlock.
Professor Russell pulled out a small device and connected a cable to the card slot.
But these early models lack any real protection. If I adjust the orbital pressure just so and apply a specific load to the circuit...
And voila.
Way to go, Professor!
That was amazing.
Quite remarkable indeed. Now then, shall we proceed underground?
We're in trouble!
What is it? Report.
An entire regiment of the regular army has arrived at the main gate of the capital. They appear to be led by officers from the Intelligence Division.
What? They're already here?
There are also 3 patrol ships approaching from the lake. What should we do?
Ugh, why now?
It appears I must go out and speak with them myself.
Grandmother!
I will go to the rooftop terrace and address the arriving troops myself. Lieutenant Schwartz, please make the necessary preparations.
But what if they attack?
I have faith in them. Though we've had our misunderstandings, they are still citizens of Liberal. Seeing me, hearing my voice, they will realize there is no reason to attack.
Your Majesty.
Estelle, everyone. It pains me that I must ask you to do this alone. However...
Your Majesty, please, say no more. We'll stop Colonel Richard's evil scheme.
Please leave it to us.
Bye-bye. The full party is reunited. If it wasn't obvious, this is the final dungeon. Let's just save for next time. However, we'll see if there's any cutscenes. And of course, go over equipment. Sealed area.
What is this place?
Ruins from the ancient Zamorian civilization.
These ruins appear quite old and yet feel very much alive. Unlike the tetracyclic towers, the machinery here is still running.
It's not just the machinery that's active. Feels like dangerous creatures are lurking all over the place.
Oh no! These materials look like recent additions. Seems like this section was built under Colonel Richard's orders.
Yes, there is no mistake about that. Imagine the effort it must have taken to work this far underground.
Yet, it's far larger than I expected. If we're not careful, we could easily get lost down here.
We should split into an exploration team and a standby team.
Huh? What do you mean?
In other words, we can set up a base camp and use it as a foothold, right?
Yeah, that's the idea. While the exploration team searches for a route, the standby team will guard the base and be ready to swap in. Once we find a way through, we'll all press forward and set up a new base.
Got it. Makes sense.
In that case, why don't we use this spot as our first base? Estelle and Joshua, decide who you want to join you on the exploration team.
Huh? Why us?
Sure.
But out of everyone here, you two have the deepest ties to this incident. I don't think anyone here will object.
Works for me. I have no objections either.
Me too. I'm fine with any choice you make.
Whatever. I'll follow your lead.
I believe you would select me to join you, of course.
Makes sense to me. Go ahead and pick your team already.
Joshua, what should we do?
There's no need to overthink it. If we need to, we can always come back and swap out our team members.
Okay. Then I guess...
Okay, we'll take Shira. Chloe would be safe. Tina would also be safe because they're the supports. We have Joshua, so I don't think Agate is needed. Joshua can fulfill the Agate DPS, the damage per round character. Zin's okay too, but we have Estelle built as a tank. Olivier makes a good substitute for Chloe as well, so. Ways of Res. I'm gonna take Olivier first. He's a little more, he's got more capabilities of magic. She's pretty water focused.
I'll have Seed go with you, Estelle. If you find a location that can serve as a base, send him back to us. He'll guide us to where you are.
I see. That way we don't have to keep coming back.
We're counting on you, Seek.
Huey.
Well then, I'll leave the exploring to you folks. I've brought a complete set of tools and a basic kit just in case. If you need any orbit modifications, just let me know.
I think this is where I can get endgame
You
weapons.
got it.
We'll be off then.
I think. First off. Okay, let's
I'll take care of your orbit adjustments.
I can't decide.
see what we can get here.
I simply cannot decide.
Safety gear. Make sure Agate and Tina have some upgraded gear.
I made up my
'Cause I
mind.
may use them, I may switch them. Okay.
I'll take care of your orbit adjustments.
I can't decide.
Which one are you going to pick?
Racer Jacket Plus.
What do you need? Be careful out there.
Did I miss the ultimate weapons? Or is that not possible yet? I hope I didn't miss them.
That was a good break.
Top of the light. Let's go ahead and do these before we end. That's a lot of HP. Okay, so Joshua a little bit more HP. Hold on. Still. Just defense. This will make him break 200. Okay. Rip. Okay, this will work for now. If it, what I might do actually for next time, I might actually switch to Tina and Agate so I could just spam limit breaks to go through. But this is the final dungeon of the game. We have entered a wizardry dungeon. It goes down and down and down. They rolled a thread at the bottom apparently, and Colonel Richards. So, wow. Right at the 50-hour mark, too. 50 hours, 26 minutes. So I think next stream that I do this game, it's going to be... This dungeon is pretty fucking long. It's probably going to be mostly this dungeon and the end cutscenes, which also takes some time, so I'll have that to look forward to. What I might do between streams is just go over orbits and stuff, so I don't take too much time on stream. But other than that,
What do you need?
I can't
Be careful
leave.
out there.
Yeah, okay. One there. Alright. It's been a long, long journey, but we are reaching the end. We will see the end next time. So, you have yourselves a good night. Well, this to look forward to. And I wanted to thank Salamandius once again for the subscription. That was very kind of you, Salamandius. And I wanted to thank everyone who watched the trail stream for sticking around for so long. I know this game is really long, but it's a JRPG. It's my favorite JRPG series. One of my favorite JRPGs. But I've been very happy to stream it as much as I have. So, as always, Wanderers, take care and farewell.